book.
It's a book, yes. And then you perhaps shouldn't have exposed yourself to that cold.
Yeah.
And it tells you that story for quite a while. So, cold weather is good. But should we say it has its drawbacks?
Hapana jali.
Nisijali?
This too shall pass.
No, indeed. But what I like about Nairobi is the rain. Very civilized. It rains at night when it isn't hampering any movement. And then in the daytime, it isn't there. Yes, it's a bit of a reprieve. So you wake up and...
Did it rain last night?
No, it didn't. But the times it has been raining, that's what it has been doing. Now this downpour in the middle of the day, yeah?
You just say that. The day before yesterday, it started raining at, 5 p.m.?
Where? Was it raining at 5 p.m.?
In the areas of Kilimani
It appears that...
and city center.
Maybe I wasn't there when it
And
was
Thika
raining.
Road.
Oh, when it rained, I didn't notice it was raining.
Yeah. See? Anyway, welcome to the show. Today is the day when Ugandans are going to the ballot to pick new members of parliament and a new president. By new, I mean, even if it's the old one, he's a new improved.
Another term.
Yeah, another term for the old president. So this is that day. It is also the day when the U.S. House of Representatives has impeached Donald Trump for the second time, making history as the first president to be impeached twice. He's so good they had to do it twice. Now this matter goes to the Senate. The Senate leadership has indicated, well, yeah, we'll take it up, but, we have other things. There's the inauguration of a new president. The incoming president has already released a statement saying, okay, guys, and he was very, very quiet on this as this whole matter was unfolding because he read it and thought, okay, so this guy still takes the limelight even after I'm inaugurated, like really. So I'm coming in, I have an agenda, I've got a cabinet that needs to be approved, I've got new CIA director, I've got new leadership that needs to be vetted and approved, I've got a coronavirus to beat, I've got a world to address and for the world to look at me and remember that I am the president, but this chap will still be in the headlines. So he's urging the Senate to remember that they have this constitutional responsibility, but also at the same time, kindly bear in mind that we have a country to run. And allow me that support.
But of interest, if the attention is elsewhere, one could argue that it gives you reprieve in the sense that you can then go about your business
You can
quietly.
focus on what you're doing.
Yes, exactly, without too much fanfare and fuss.
Yeah, one way of looking at it as well, actually. And then we have all these things that are happening in the country. There is COVID-19. There is a debilitating strike by healthcare workers across the country, many counties. There is the standoff between the counties and the national government on where the money is going to come from. There is the issue of the BBI and, those people who signed. Are they real? Are they not? There is a whole matter of... Anyway, let's just begin with COVID.
Let's do that. We're looking at now 92,767,845 cases that have been recorded around the world, COVID-19. Countries still continue to rack up those numbers. 23 million of those cases are in the United States so far. They have now tested almost 80%. Well, okay, let's say this. They have carried out 277 million tests so far, almost 278 million tests. We know that some of those are repeat tests, so we can't say a certain percentage of the population has been tested. We just know that many tests have been carried out, and they still continue to record high numbers. 213,000 is what they recorded yesterday, with just over 4,000 deaths in the United States. All right. South Africa, which... of course, on the continent is dropping in terms of numbers that they've been recording on a daily basis. This is also a country where we found the second strain of COVID-19. They haven't really been recording high cases, except for yesterday now, when they saw 18,555 new cases with 806 new deaths. With 806, I beg your pardon, deaths in South Africa. This was about 6,000 more cases than the day before. having come back from the festive period, they're not taking their testing as a joke. They're still testing quite heavily and making sure that they know what things look like. So in 24 hours, the caseload rose by about 6,000. And the deaths, they're raking in an average of about 750 deaths per day. This is what is happening in South Africa at the moment. So, yes, still relatively high numbers in terms of what they're reporting every day. But then again, they have an idea of what's going on in the country, and this helps them to be able to plan what they're going to do in the near future. So the test results are indicative then of what the situation around the country
Vaccination
is. Right, so they have received, I believe, their first load of vaccinations, and they're following the same plan that quite a number of countries are. Vulnerable groups, frontline workers, health workers, making sure that they get those vaccines done for them. In terms of how many, we are not quite sure. We have the United States just approaching 10 million having been vaccinated so far. We need to look at the numbers for South Africa and see where they are with this. Okay, so if we bring things home and see what's happening in Kenya at the moment, now 92,760. In Kenya, 98,555 cases so far. Let's look at what was reported yesterday. And 123 new cases and 4 new deaths. Again, not testing as rigorously as should be at the moment. I guess different factors relating to why that is not happening.
Yeah.
But tests are not being carried out as they should in the country at the moment.
in this our country.
Yes.
Okay. And the reasons being given for that, huh?
There are no reasons being given. It just has not come up in conversation as to why targeted testing is not going on, why community testing is not even being suggested. Tests are being carried out right now for those who present themselves to hospital with symptoms.
But this strategy was actually adopted a long time ago for let's
Only
just
going
do
to
that.
test who comes to hospital.
Yes. Remember also around that time when there was that, random testing all over, and even the Kenyan Medical Association wrote to the National Emergency Response Committee, and they proposed, when you do this, we are ending up wasting a lot of the meager resource that we have in terms of testing kits. So why not focus it on people who are going to hospital? Somebody turns up to hospital and they have certain symptoms and medical professional things that because of this and the other, and the questions I'm asking you, the case management, I'm going to recommend that you take a COVID test. Because, so you have X number of kits and you're not expecting to get the other number of kits for you don't know how long. And then you go to, say, a certain place and you've conducted some random tests. Out of those, 1% turn out positive. And then the other 99% kits have basically just been used. And you had nothing to guide you on that, especially because you don't have the access to proper kits. Maybe it's a strategy that they adopted after some time. The only issue now here is, why are we still at this point when initially it was clear that there was a global scramble for test kits, global scramble for PPEs? Hasn't that normalized?
Yeah, people seem to have been able to get their supplies. Countries seem to have been able to get their supplies when they need them. Those who are manufacturing seem to have now a steady flow of supplies and product. So the excuse as to we can't get it or it's scarce doesn't come up anymore. Shouldn't come up anymore. But of course, these are not being given for free. Countries have to purchase them. So again, purchasing power and purchasing will then is a totally different thing.
But what I think is also unique, we haven't actually exorcised the demon of cancer yet.
Nope.
So even if we talk about vaccines, unfortunately, as a Kenyan, my mind will go to the sequence or the sequences of the drama that we were treated to with regards to the PPEs in Kemsa. Yes. We have an emergency. Yes. We have a need. Yes. But for some people, it will be an opportunity. And it's an opportunity that's being planned, plotted, determined. The issue of what it's supposed to achieve is actually really in the background, completely in the background. It's not, yes, we now need to buy, the vaccine is available. Yes, it's an opportunity. That's it. People need it. It's crucial. It's important. Not important. Doesn't come into play.
Nope. Nope, unfortunately not.
Hey.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll have conversations around COVID. And like we said, we're waiting for this vaccine. We're also waiting to get a lot more clarity from the government on so vaccines are coming. So what's going to happen after that? When do we expect them here? What do we expect to see? What do people need to know about this? Demystify the whole issue of vaccine. It's not a cure. It's just a vaccine. So, and who gets the vaccine? Who doesn't? What happens after you get the vaccine? Do you stop wearing a mask? Then, all those things, that communication needs to happen.
Eric, it's like anytime we talk about procurement of anything in this country, if it's supposed to be something that's being done at the national level, even the county level, guarantee there'll be smoke and dust accompanying that whole process.
Kabisa?
Yes. And now, instead of waiting for this solution to a very serious problem, I am anticipating the drama that is going to
It's going to ensue.
Yes.
With the vaccines.
Yes.
Wait.
That's what you're waiting for?
Yes.
2.0.
Yes. Because in all honesty, if we had that amount of drama with PPEs, and it turns out that indeed we did have PPEs, but there was this, and then again there was that, and then again there was the other.
Even when there was COVID the first time, what happened? There was already scandal surrounding that thing. As in, COVID, before anybody knew what it was, nobody even knew what it was. Disease, virus coming into the country, people had already planned and plotted how they were going to be rich, and actually did become rich from it or increased their wealth because of COVID. Now, vaccine coming, same COVID, you know what it is. You know where it's coming from. There are people you can actually speak to. Hey.
Time for us to take that break at 6:15. Good morning. The live stream is up. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter at www.spicefm.co.ke. Say hello and we'll say hello to you. I see Master Dan says he's in Beijing. Good morning to us. Good morning to you too. Let's look at the weather in Beijing actually. Shortly.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in...
All right, this chilly
The weather
Thursday morning. Nairobi is mostly cloudy at the moment. We're going to see highs of 26 today, coming down to lows of 14. Into Nyeri, mostly cloudy conditions at 18, highs of 24 and lows of 11. 15 degrees will be the low in Nakuru, currently mostly cloudy at 21. It's also 21 in Eldoret and mostly cloudy. Going to highs of 25 and lows of 14. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu, looking at west. 74% chance of rain today. See highs of 26 and lows of 19. We're looking at 17 as the low in Kakamega, mostly cloudy at 21 at the moment, and clear conditions in Mombasa for now at least. Going to highs of 32 today and lows of 24. That's what it is in Malindi. We'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 25. Stepping out of Kenya, rain showers already in Kampala at 18. The polls are open, but it is raining. People vote anyway. Highs of 26 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam, mostly clear at 25. Highs of 31 and lows of 26. Looking at 16 degrees and light rain in Johannesburg. Coming back down to lows of 16. The high will be 24. Lagos is also experiencing light rain this morning at 27. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 24. It's partly cloudy in Kinshasa at 23. There's a chance of rain, but we'll wait and see. Going to highs of 31. Beijing, it's sunny. It's 1 degree, however. We'll only see highs of 3 and lows of -6. Paris is slightly warmer today at 9. Cloudy conditions, however, going to highs of 11 and lows of 2. It's raining in London and likely to continue this way for most parts of the morning. Highs of 8 and lows of 4. And finally for now, in New York, Wednesday night reads 4 degrees. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 6 and lows of 1.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Ice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, how you doing? 18 minutes after 6 o'clock. People are online.
Yeah, Evans Osumo is saying good morning. Okay. Good morning, Nyanyuki from Wajir.
Nyanyuki.
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 No, he says it's near.
He says Nyanyuki.
What's that?
Huh?
What's that?
It's Nyanyuki.
But he said Wajir.
Same place.
Yeah,
Same
it's the
place.
same place.
Oh, it's the same place.
But he says Nyanyuki from Wajir.
Is there a place in Wajir called Nyanyuki?
It's possible.
Well, it is possible. It is possible. It
Okay.
is possible. But then, you must never, never underestimate the rich influence that the mother tongue has on some of these things. Yes, like if you come from my backyard, the town in which we now reside, in which we are broadcasting from, it's called Nairobi.
Nairobi.
Yes.
Nairobi. Well.
And when they refer to Nakuru, it is Naikuru.
Well. Bade Ashley is tuned in, or rather, Baywa Macha is tuned in from Machakos this morning. Good morning. And Robertson Bogo is tuned in from Mombasa. Isaiah Kibwaro says good morning. Okeoya Ye is tuned in from Rongo University and says good morning. Live from Juja, that's where Moses Kashari is. And yes, Master Dan from Beijing this morning. It is 1 degree in Beijing. So chilly morning, but the sun, we are told, is out. Koryot Nandi is where Laban Tanui Kaptel is tuning in from this morning, as is Alex Mbogo from Nyeri. Esther Gashanja James is tuned in from Sydney, Australia, into the afternoon in Sydney. County 36, 036.
Which one is that?
I'm asking.
Let me give you a hint. It's in Kenya.
It's in Kenya.
It's a county.
It's a county.
It's one of the 47.
And it has a governor.
Yes.
It has a governor and a deputy.
Yes. It even has sub-counties.
Okay. You guys are brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. High praise so early in the day. Thank you.
So, Benson, please help out Eric and CT. Charity is tuned in from Nakuru, as is Isaiah Kibwaro, tuned in from downtown Minneapolis.
Okay. Okay. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. So, that 036, stop giving us assignments in the morning.
You don't want assignments in the morning?
Okay. So, CT, what is today's proverb, my brother?
No matter how tall the neck is, there is no day it will surpass the head. Let me just repeat it. No matter how tall the neck is, there is no day it will surpass the head.
Okay. The head is the head. Is
the head is the head. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Yes, you've got it right. The head is the head, is the head, is the head.
Okay. Hiya. Let's look at the headlines as we begin the show proper. Many things. Very many things. There's a story here in the Nation that gets a bit of coverage on the front page and then goes on to page 6. Regional Development PS Margaret Mwakima was wrapping up inspection of school reopening in Kilifi County on Monday when she encountered the shock of her life. According to the story, she was accompanied by reporters at Mtomondoni Primary School in Mtwapa, and Dr. Mwakima found hundreds of pupils sitting on logs and stones, writing in books placed on their laps. Now, I don't know why that is a shock of her life, but let's find out. The PS had visited several other schools in the region and witnessed similar scenes, but the situation at Mtomondoni was embarrassing. She left without addressing the media. Mtomondoni is one of the thousands of primary schools whose children are learning under trees, as advised by the Education CS, Magoha. And this is basically what they're saying. It's a mirage of offering lessons under trees. The number of pupils in, for example, a school in Kisii, Riemo Riamutinga Primary School, 700. The average daily temperatures in Kenya's north and northwest and northeast of the country is 36 degrees Celsius. So these kids are out there. 4,700, the total number of population of Olympic Primary School in Kibra. Mwiki Primary has only 72 teachers and 3,600 pupils.
Why is she in shock?
I don't know. It's a shock of her life, that one.
Even of her life.
Because there were no trees, I think.
So if there had been trees, it would have been okay.
Yeah.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
If there were trees, it would have been okay. Say, okay, at least there are trees for them to sit under and learn. My goodness.
By the way, in all honesty, I don't actually understand why she was shocked. Because to be shocked means it's something she didn't expect.
You didn't expect.
And then she sees it.
Yeah.
And what is also not new is that for her to see it that way, they didn't create the scenario for her to see. That school has been in existence, and the situation she found there has also been in existence for some time. So here she was, direct confrontation with reality.
So she has been, in other words, she has been out of touch with the reality in the sector where she has been working and where she is still working. Out of touch completely. And the things were not working. And by the time the CS said, giving them, quote unquote, an out, if you don't have enough classrooms because of social distancing, go and learn outside under trees. And they say, you know what? That's what we've been forced to do because that's what we have. You're so out of touch with the reality of how bad the situation is in the sector where you're working, not somebody else's sector, yours, that you oversee day in, day out.
By the way...
And then they said learn under trees. They say, actually, you know what? We'll just learn under trees because that is all we have. Then you're shocked.
You know, the truth of the matter is this, There are very many parts of this country where people have been learning under trees long before the CS made his proclamation.
Of course.
Yes. There are people who the education was under trees for the longest time. You entered a classroom when you got to probably standard 5, 6, and 7. But before then, you actually learned.
Outside.
What about schools that only had a wall that was probably chest high?
Yep.
Okay? No roof. Then Harambes and many events later, it acquired a roof. That was it. And people, look, learning situations, if you were to actually document the circumstances under which many people learn in this country, learning under a tree is actually...
It's normal.
It's good.
Yes.
It's
Those
part
are
of
good
it.
conditions.
I am actually not... Well, to be fair to the PS, she did not address the media. She did not say anything. So the fact of that part of shock of her life is basically what the journalist interpreted.
Has reported.
Yes. She did not say, I'm shocked. She did not say, oh, goodness, how can this be happening? She said nothing of the sort, right? But this is something that we've seen. Even before this, remember we had a conversation with the governor of West Pokot. No, the governor of West Pokot, when schools were closed, he said, look, there's a school that you have come and shut down because it has no infrastructure. Children are learning under trees. That is normal. The thing that you should be congratulating us is because we've ensured that there's learning going on. And there's a reason for that. This is a part of the community where there is war. There has been serious tension. Now, these are people who have come and they are continuing their education. This happens across the country. If you just think about a school like this Olympic Primary with 4,700 pupils, student population, you can imagine the kind of classrooms that they go into. So I don't know. There's, of course, it's not a good thing that we talk about, children are now sitting outside, they're learning under this kind of conditions. They are sitting outside, they are only holding their books and pens on their laps and under the scorching sun, but put them in a classroom. Situation may not be very different.
But
they'll be sitting like 5 people in a small squeezed desk.
Someone like the PS will probably know about these schools from reports that they're given.
Yep.
So if indeed there was a shock, it is now the reality conflicting with what they have read or what they have been informed.
Yeah.
Because it's like you were told this and you wonder, wait a moment, but is this the same place I was told
What
about?
I am being told is not the case.
Exactly.
Yeah. There are very many photos here. There's a photo on the front page of The Nation that shows pupils at Mwega Primary School in Nyeri County taking their lessons under trees. Also, the photo on page 6 is of another different school. This is Canaan Primary School in Lodwar. where the CAS for Education, Mumina Bonaya, toured and she found pupils learning under tree. Well, these ones are not under tree. They're just learning outside. Okay? So this is happening across the country.
At least situation, at least they're learning.
Yeah.
Actually, the debate ought to be, should we simply sit back and consider this to be normal?
That's where now the issue is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And should we just accept it and let it continue?
Yeah. This is where the issue is. And that's why among the issues that, keep cropping up on the education sector in Kenya, the proliferation of private schools is because the government has not done much in terms of addressing the gaps in the education sector. When is the last time that a new public primary school was built, let's say in Nairobi County? How many new public primary schools have been built in the last 10 years? So we know that the population of Nairobi in the last 10 years has risen by about 1 million. How many children have been born in Nairobi? How many children require to go to school every year, enter school every new year in Nairobi? How many schools are built to accommodate this rising population? Okay, so those are the questions that we should be having going forward all the time. So should we take that break now and then we now do the other headlines, right? Okay, so let's take that break now as we keep appreciating everybody who is saying hello to us online. And thank you very much for tuning in. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Keep it right here because we have more and more stories to look at in the papers. What is making the headlines this morning? Hello, 29 minutes after 6.
Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Things have not started well this morning at all. There's been a terrible accident on the Southern Bypass inbound. A trailer lost control, and that's from the outbound lane, and traffic is already building up. It's spilling over onto Mombasa Road. There's a lot of traffic already. Not even around about 6 o'clock that started. So already having to breathe in and out. If you can, avoid the Southern Bypass. That's the piece of advice we're giving this morning. You don't have to be on the Southern Bypass. Do not, because you will get stuck because of that accident. So that's what we're starting off now. So Mombasa Road already affected because of that. Heading into the CBD. Outbound, it's all still building up, but it's not a good one here. Okay, so we'll give you more details about that and how, if that has been cleared up. Let's look at Thika Road. It's already building up, coming to the tunnel at Pangani. Kiambu Road has already built up. It's bumper to bumper. We're going to look at traffic throughout the day like this, having built up. And we'll look at other parts in a while, but having give you that information. If you're on Mombasa Road, trying to use the Southern Bypass, for now, I would advise that you do not. Talk to us about what else we can see. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127. In some way, we have to keep it moving this day.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Okay, 28 minutes.
94.4.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. What story are you looking at, City?
You know, sometimes our newspapers can be depressing. In all honesty, because I'm looking and everything I'm reading, there's nothing that I genuinely, But, Star, governors, why we can't pay nurses an extra coin? You won't get a cent more. This is what is being reported. That's what governors have told striking health workers. The governors say they have accepted all demands by the striking workers except for high allowances, which they reject outright. Yes.
And these high allowances that essentially were rising from 3,000 to 15,000 shillings. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So it's basically just putting forth the case of look at how much these cadre of workers. So they had a meeting yesterday, the Council of Governors with the Editors Guild, and they said, look, so for a doctor in this job group, for a nurse in this job group, for a clinical officer in this job group, for a lab technician in this job group, this is how much they're earning in terms of, allowances, basic salary, various allowances, the final take home. And you see some nurses from degree level are at 100 and maybe 120,000 shillings. And then the same argument that the Kisii governor, James Ongwae, was giving us, if you compare that salary with the similar job group and similar qualified person who is in a different career or different cadre, different profession rather, let's say an engineer, an architect, and how much they're earning, then you can see that there's going to be a disparity, and it's creating that kind of disharmony in the workforce.
Actually, the disparity, if we were to go by what has been presented in the Star, this is on page 5, it's actually clear. It's just, if you're talking about the entry point salary of health workers and the entry point salaries of, say, teachers, and say, let's start with an entry point with a degree, all right? You'll find there's a great disparity. Teachers, for instance, entry point minimum is 55,000, all right? Engineers, entry point 64,000, all right? Finance, HR, accountants, 42,000. Okay. Then, if you go to healthcare workers, entry level for doctors, dentists, pharmacists, anesthetists,
those ones.
Anesthetists.
Yes. Hey, man, I didn't know a word.
He's even making you sweat.
Man, so that one. Okay. 241,000. Job group N. Enrolled nurses with a degree, 118,000.
Right.
Nursing officers with certificate, 71,000. Clinical officers with a degree, 108,000. Clinical officers with a diploma, 83,000. Lab technicians, 71,000. Lab technologists, 82,000.
So this is their take home. This is just entry salary, allowances, blah, blah, blah. Take home is that much. And then we're comparing it to the teachers and the others who are at 50,000.
Actually, that isn't take home, my brother. That is what they give you. Then the taxman comes has a little discussion with you about what it is that is actually yours.
The gross.
This is a gross, yes. That's what's actually presented usually, because that's the gross.
Yeah.
Now, I actually think that when you bring in this comparison, yes, it is a discussion worthy of debate, but this, I don't think, is really the issue. No, it isn't.
What is the issue?
Uncertainty. When you work in the healthcare business, you are in the healthcare line of work, especially now when you are confronted with something like COVID, there arises a problem of uncertainty. And the uncertainty is this. What is it that will enable you, salary aside, what is it that will enable you to actually have the security that you need to continue doing your job? It isn't the job. You already have the job. What has been cited has been the uncertainty that is brought about by either an absence or an inadequate supply of the tools with which you need to do your job.
I think to be fair to the governors as well, what has been cited, what has been fronted is that the uncertainty in terms of supply of PPEs, in terms of medical care, in terms of insurance. And then, coming hot on the heels of that, is the issue of more emoluments. And that's where now it starts muddying the waters. Because now we are not just discussing. So if it's just discussing PPEs, everybody will understand, okay, so PPEs, what kind of PPEs do we require to have in this facility? How often are they resupplied, restocked? Okay, blah, 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 blah. But then when you say the return to work formula, we'll talk about, okay, the increase of this allowance, the increase of the other allowance, the increase of a fourth allowance. And this is after several conversations have happened since 2013 of allowance increase here, allowance increase there. This is where now the issue comes in.
Actually, when I talk about uncertainty, you've actually explained it in a way that I wouldn't have, and you're right. Look at it this way. Where exactly, if you are going to negotiate and you very well know that there's going to be a give and take, would you not raise the bar and have issues that you know very well? You may even know very well this isn't going to happen. But so that we have a good negotiating platform, we'll say, okay, we will surrender this issue of more pay. But we must have this. The moment you get to collective bargaining, it is give and take. But against what backdrop? Why is it that they would insist on wanting more money? It's because we have other cadres of people who work within the government or within the nation who we see. Allowance this, allowance that, allowance this, allowance that, allowance this, allowance that. So, but the uncertainty is in the honesty of the agreements you arrive at. That is the uncertainty. You agree on certain things, but you never see it coming to fruition.
True.
So, it begs the question, why do you get into these discussions in the first place?
And then you ask yourself then the push and pull that comes from the side who's looking for, like clinical officers, nurses, whatever, against that truth, that they see sectors of government where allowances are flowing like water. So then for you to tell them that you can't afford it, it would be very difficult to explain that position, and they're going to hang tight to that thing that they have.
Sectors of public service.
Well, actually, within the country, just look at it this way.
It doesn't matter where it is.
Whether it is MPs, whether it is...
it doesn't matter.
So long as, you see, the coffers from where this money comes from is the same.
Is one. Yeah.
So if you talk about that, then you can say, let's separate public servants and public officers and state officers. Okay? So MPs, let's say, okay, they have this allowance, this other allowance, their third allowance and fourth allowance. In terms of the public service, how would we compare the remuneration that goes to those that work in the health sector to the others that work in other sectors? How would we compare, for example? You see, for example, teachers have over time negotiated and gotten more allowances, negotiated and gotten a better health insurance scheme, negotiated and gotten better. Doctors have done the same. They've been negotiating. They've been getting better and better terms of service. Let's talk about police officers, for example. When you say that there is exposure to COVID-19, we keep forgetting the security officers. Police officers and how much they're paid, what kind of access do they have to PPEs, what kind of insurance do they have, how exposed are they on a daily basis to death, not just from COVID, but from everything else in life. What do they get?
Why don't we throw in prison officers while we're at it?
It's a conversation that the SRC keeps trying to do this, to try and harmonize, and then the politics comes in. The politics comes in. So this gets more limelight than the other.
This is, we're chasing a tail that we'll never catch here. The simple reason is we're premising our discussion and argument on something that is more symptomatic, a symptom, than it is a reality. Again, let me go back. If these conditions that were bargained for and arrived at, if there was an honesty in fulfilling them and one saw a continuation and a more honest discussion, I highly doubt if we'd be where we are today. We talk about teachers and the benefits they've gained. But there has to be that continuous discussion and the honesty of, look, folks, what we can afford now is this. Okay? And when you look over your shoulders, there is no question of, but why are you saying you can't afford it and we can see it happening over there?
Something else
now, it may even be illogical. But the truth of the matter is, if you have been seen to be the sort of people who do not keep your word, it becomes very, very difficult for any agreement that you have to be taken seriously.
Then if we actually just take that argument, can we also say that it makes sense then for the Council of Governors to just come out and say, we can't, we won't?
But that's what they should say.
And that's what they're saying.
And with good reason. Look.
That's what they're saying now. We can't, we won't. We cannot increase, we cannot go ahead and sign this collective bargaining agreement with the clinical officers because we don't even have the money to pay the other guys, even their current salary. We don't even have that money.
It can't be, we can't alone. It has to be, look, this we cannot and we will not. However, this is what we had agreed on earlier. This is how we are going to go about it. Look, if again, long before COVID reared its head,
They were having this problem.
yes, and the problems were the same thing. Things have been said, they've been agreed upon, they are not being implemented. It's an ongoing story. It's an ongoing story with teachers. It's unfortunate that policemen don't have unions.
Yep.
It would really be interesting.
It would be the same kind of thing.
And
that happens.
this one would be really tricky because if police decide to go on strike, what do you think is going to happen?
Serious
Well, we
problems.
see them doing a couple of, go-slows here and there. But you see, it points to two sides of things. One is a union, a trade union, and the other is the employer, who is led by a political person. So this politician, at some point, they get to a point where they are pushed to a corner and they say, okay, fine, I sign, and I know I will not be the one who's responsible for implementing this. So I just sign it off, knowing full well this will not be my baby come tomorrow. So, and the union knows this. The union knows you just sign, but it's not your baby.
All right.
You'll pass on the baby. Then the new guy who comes in is given that baby. There was this baby. You're like, come on. So
Eric.
you're pushed by a strong union to a corner. You also now say, okay then.
Kenyatta
And you
National
also sign.
Hospital is a public health care facility.
Yes.
Why is it that the workers have not gone on strike?
Because they have reached an agreement.
Yes. Not just reached.
But it's not because they don't go on strike.
No, they do. But the agreement that they have reached have been fulfilled. Why is it that healthcare workers in private institutions, they can also go on strike? There have been murmurs at some times when health workers have said they might go on strike. Why? It's because the management of those institutions arrive at an agreement, and from my thinking, it could be purely theoretical, but there's a constant discussion as to what can happen and what can work and what can't work, and it's communicated. But you can't wait for a crisis to arise, then you start communicating.
And even when we saw that, doctors and healthcare workers in Mombasa in private sector were willing to then go on strike with the public, because look at it clear, because you can come up with an agreement that can be followed. Just like you're saying, you can do this. So we're not going to go on strike because we don't have agreements with our employers, but we're going to go on strike to stand in solidarity with you because we know this is something that can actually be done. Honestly, they're at the point where the problem is looking like an elephant. It's so huge. Whereas what has been asked is that this thing can be chipped at slowly and can be sorted.
It calls for leadership on both sides, on all sides actually. It calls for leadership on all sides. When the Council of Governors says this, let the unions also listen. When the unions say this, let the governors also listen. But at some point, reality, the rubber will meet the road. There's a reality.
We don't have the money, it's a reality.
Yes.
But we haven't always not had the money. There have been times when we've had the money, and this merry-go-round of storytelling is what has taken center stage.
So if at the time you had the money, you had done it right. This time when you don't, the folks would have understood.
Sawa, but now we don't have the money. Can we now agree on the present? That history I understand, but I wasn't the one. Okay, just the same thing I'm telling you. It is politicians you're dealing with. This guy is now, Oparanya is serving his final term. Next year, come August, he'll no longer be governor. Same thing with Ongwae. What if they sign this thing? The next governor of Kakamega will deal with a baby that they do not even know about.
They actually,
and this is where leadership...
They actually don't need to sign it. Remember the issue of the equipment, the MES, right? There's one governor who notably did not sign. The then governor of Bomet.
Yep.
Isaac Ruto. He did not.
Yep.
If he didn't, it means others could have taken that stand. It isn't as though what was being offered was not understood. He understood it, and so did the others. Now, it is not easy to stand by what you believe, or should we say, and then to stand out. It isn't. This is a culture that has been there. Even the teachers, why do they keep threatening? The reason is because promises made, promises not kept. Long before COVID. Long before COVID.
Yes.
It's a history. University. Why do we have this? It's the same story. Same story.
Yes.
It's like people just make promises for the sake of it.
Of course.
Why not start and say?
And I'm like,
yes.
I told you no. Okay then, so. Okay.
Eric, there's a way of
saying
saying
no. Can you now go
no.
back to work?
There's a way of saying no that can be understood.
I've told you no.
Yes.
No, can we talk? No, I can't afford. No. Okay.
Yes.
Sawa basi. 13 minutes to 7. Let's take that break.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Okay, another headline. No.
We don't need lectures from foreigners, Museveni tells the United States. So, the polls have opened in Uganda as of 6 o'clock this morning. And stories coming out from yesterday. Even as the Ugandans go to polls today, many organizations, including the organization that is the United States, that applied for observer role were denied accreditation. The United States has cancelled its observation of Uganda's presidential election because most of its accreditation requests were denied and said today's vote would lack accountability and transparency. The announcement adds to a growing chorus of concern over the credibility of the election, pitting Yoweri Museveni, one of Africa's longest-serving leaders, against 10 candidates, including opposition frontrunner Bobi Wine, Robert Chagulanyi, otherwise known as Bobi Wine. While previous elections have been marred by crackdowns on the opposition, campaigning this time has been particularly violent. Scores of people have been killed and opposition candidates, supporters and campaign staff have been repeatedly arrested and intimidated. This is a story that comes out of Reuters.
So US applied for a couple of accreditations. They did not receive many of them. So because of that, they said we are not going to be observing this election. And because of that, we feel that this vote is going to lack accountability and transparency because it will not have our stamp.
Well, it's interesting because Museveni spokesman Don Wanyama said the African Union and East African community would deploy observers, and he could not remember the last time Uganda sent monitors to the United States for their elections. So, I mean, I don't know what we're talking about here. There's no big hullabaloo. They can't come, they won't come. We also have not gone there for some time. So guess what? The election will continue, and you just leave us alone. Don't lecture us.
The EAC and the East African Community Election Observer Mission, headed by Domitian Ndayizeye, who's also the former Burundian head of state, said they're ready to ensure objectivity and impartiality. And the observers are already ready to start working in Uganda. The ESU observers are on the ground. They're ready to start working. Several civil society organizations in Uganda had filed 1,900 accreditation requests. They were given 10.
Just 1%, not bad.
Yeah, just given 10. Not all okay. How many? 1,900? 10. That's enough for you. Yeah, go ahead and observe.
It's going to be an interesting day.
If AU is there and if the ESC is there,
then it's okay.
You know,
the UN said they're pulling out that there's going to be violence.
I've been telling this thing in my mind. Under what circumstances can you actually condone violence?
When there's an insurrection.
But this is an election.
When you're dealing with an insurrection.
So are we then to assume that every time there is an
pre-election insurrection or post-election insurrection?
Because
see, now that's a buzzword for 2021.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. Because
it has to be used somewhere.
The amount, the quantity of violence that one sees in every electoral cycle in Uganda is actually a little mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It isn't your garden variety violence where, the police will throw tear gas and then chase people around.
It's always explained away.
Yes.
And this year, Museveni has used the excuse, or rather the reason, of COVID. Violence that you people are talking about. Truth being that out of the 54 people that you saw killed, over half of these individuals were flouting COVID rules and regulations.
So you die for flouting rules?
So no, they were actually, over half of them were fighting police, security agencies.
Now, the security agencies went to the area where they were because the COVID rules were being flouted. Now, when they went in to restore order, these protesters now fought them. And that is how they lost their lives. So when you talk about condoning violence on the part of Museveni's government, he doesn't see it like that. He sees it like we were trying to maintain order. And if people died, it's unfortunate. We don't condone
There were
violence.
54
We
people
had
who
things that we
died.
wanted to
Out
do.
of those 54, there are 22 that we are investigating. Those ones we are investigating to find out how they
But
died.
of
and
them,
whether-
32
32
was because
others were fighting back the police.
who had gone in to maintain order.
You've seen insurrection even in the U.S. Capitol. Have you seen?
They're sleeping in the Capitol building.
Look, that they were fighting, I am sure there were incidences where people fought back. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And there's no question about many people also probably not even fighting back, instigating a little pushback. There's no question about it. I'm not talking about specific violence from the police or from the army. I'm talking about violence with its many, many, many variations from whatever. It is not a good culture because it begets more violence.
Okay. Now, tomorrow is the day when Miss Anne Kananu Mwenda should be vetted by the Nairobi County Assembly, okay? But already, the Third Way Alliance, which has a candidate in this by-election, has gone to court seeking an order of injunction to be issued to Anne Kananu to restrain her from participating in her vetting, approval, or in any other manner proceeding with the process whose end result would be to have her sworn in as the deputy governor. They also want the county assembly stopped from vetting or approving Miss Anne Kananu. Another case in court seeking to stop the county assembly from doing what it wants to do. At the same time, we know all these other candidates that will come up. One of the names that has now emerged that wants to be governor of Nairobi is former Mandera Central MP and lawyer Abdikadir Mohammed, who has expressed interest in the Nairobi gubernatorial race. So,
But you Kenyans like culture. Like Siti said yesterday.
remember, Abdikadir Mohammed was the chair of the PSC on Constitution Review and also the chair of the succeeding Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee. And for 5 years, he was President Uhuru Kenyatta's Constitutional Affairs advisor. Now, man wants to run for Nairobi. He had said he's retired from politics. But looking at the way Nairobi is being run, no.
Can't allow this kind of thing to happen.
It needs help. It needs help. Well, we'll look for him. We want to understand what he wants to do. You have to go to court.
Courts busy, man.
Yeah.
Any small
We
thing like this,
love
court.
the law.
I'm telling you.
Okay? The law says go to court. So we go to court.
If
We're
you're
not doing
aggrieved,
insurrection. That
head
you
there.
go and sit in the county assembly and ensure that they don't sit. No. We are going to court. Yeah.
You see, and the courts, for the courts to be this popular, it has been seen and understood that the courts may actually not just listen to you, but may actually apply the law favorably. So,
or at the very least, assist you in stalling a process.
Yeah, that is almost guaranteed. It's almost guaranteed. Stopping it, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because ask yourself a simple question: the governors who have been impeached, what is it that makes them hold their head above water? Courts.
Courts.
Said, okay, you brought this issue. Okay, halt.
Wait.
Halt. Let's hear this one.
Remember the case of Waluke. Again, you go to court. Halt.
You still go back into the parliament and be
Well,
earning a
yes.
salary, and you have this huge sentence hanging over your
Yes,
neck,
you
literally.
do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So, when you have, I don't know, remember this narrative that one hears from time to time, that the bottleneck in the pursuit of justice
It's the
in this country.
judiciary.
How is it when the judiciary, in my opinion, seems to be extremely vibrant? Sometimes
Remember, we've not called it the bottle top, or the cap. It's just the neck.
And you told us that
No matter how long,
long
the
the
neck
neck is,
the
you
head
can
is
never
still the
surpass
head.
the head.
So it'll pass. It's just that you're saying it's passing too slowly. And now it's constrained. All these other people who are coming in, and then you find this very thin pipe.
Yes, it is
It's not
thin.
the motor top.
It is thin because it has been made thin. Remember, there are many people who benefit from a status quo. So this issue of change that people are talking about, it does not sit well. Because it means that the benefits you have had may evaporate. So you will fight it with every breath and every inch of strength that you have to ensure that that status quo that benefits you is maintained.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, as we go to the top of the hour, remember we had a conversation with the chair of the Secondary School Heads Association, Kahindi Muli, when schools were reopening last week. And he said, we are waiting for the money eagerly. Some 19.5 billion shillings was go to them.
By Friday.
Now, they're saying this 19.5 billion shillings is very little money for us, Bwana.
So, sorry, wait. Did the money reach?
Yeah? Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. At least that one happened.
No, when you hear him saying this, is because imekuja. That's kidogo. You know, when someone asks you for money, then you give them 50 bob. They take it.
Then they
Lakini
say,
boss. Hauwezi ongeza tu kitu kidogo. Ifike 100, at least somebody, you know.
Now they're saying they can't operate with this 19.5 billion.
Yeah.
We're going to need a little bit more.
Yep. So that's an issue. So, City, I think it just as we go to the top of the hour, there's that story on page 3 of the Standard about the Anglican bishop.
Please read it for me.
So, I can help you.
Please do.
So,
in a minute.
First for the ACK, for decades, the conservative church had been reluctant to appoint women in the position of bishop. But times have changed, and Dr. Emily Onyango is just one of many women across denominations being appointed to top roles. So, she has been appointed an assistant bishop of the ACK, becoming the first woman in the history of the church in a position to hold such a in the country to hold such a position. Onyango, the longest-serving female clergy in the ACK, was appointed during a special synod of the Diocese of Bondo, Siaya County, where she will deputize Professor David Kodia.
Very good.
So, good thing.
Good progress.
The first
for the Anglican Church of Kenya.
You will find that the Holy See has also made certain changes. They are also allowing women to participate more in the services within the Roman Catholic Church.
Wow.
So it's a season of change.
Good.
Not yet to become priests, but
at least
to
it's moving
more
somewhere.
services. Yes.
All right. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock. In the next hour, let's discuss locusts.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
And it is on Mombasa Road this morning. It's crazy on the Southern Bypass. That accident which took place this morning, still quite crazy. And if you can avoid the Southern Bypass this morning, please do so. Mombasa Road traffic starts at the Gateway Mall, moving slowly on the service lane. So you're advised to use the service lane if you can and stay off the main highway. But those who are on the main highway, this one you have to just stay there. Heavy traffic from Kibudha to Githiga in Kangema this morning. And it seems that everybody leaving going towards Nairobi is having an issue today. The Dagoretti interchange, there's Jam Pro Max is what it's being called this morning. That traffic is still being caused there, still quite high because of the accident that took place this morning. Thika Road Superhighway is moving very slowly from Utali Hotel towards the Pangani Underpass. That's going to take some time to get out of there. Coming out of Westlands as well towards the CBD. If you can use the Red Hill bypass, that is what is recommended because there's traffic everywhere you look. Into the CBD as well. You might want to use the alternate route of Wangari Maathai Road if you're headed towards Tomboya. Otherwise, you're just going to have to sit through this one. So traffic everywhere, folks, this morning. Let's be careful as much as we can. We'll give you more information as we go along, shall we? Spice of MKE, talk to us as well on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Indeed, and it's Kenya's biggest conversation, and we thank you very much for joining us this and every weekday morning. Hello from wherever you tuned in from, on Spice FM, on KTN, home for the next 2 hours, online, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. As we begin this hour, let's hear today's proverb from CT Muga.
No matter how tall the neck is, there is no day it will surpass the head.
No matter how tall the neck is, there's no day it will surpass the head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's clear.
Neck is neck, head is head.
Head is head.
Mm.
Can't argue with that, really, can you?
No, but for purposes of just discussion, there are people who could.
There are people who may find something to say.
There are always people who find something to say.
All right. So let's talk about locust invasion. The desert locusts came, first wave went, appear to have been dealt with, then a second wave, and now we've also been warned and cautioned that there's a wave that is spreading around the country. What is the latest that we know about this?
Right, so we were told that with the changing weather patterns that we would expect more locusts to come back into the country with that cycle that we had seen before, where it's thought that it would have been dealt with. Those counties that suffered it before, from Isiolo to Wajir to Mandera, would suffer the same again. And we're looking at then high impact when it comes to the clearance of vegetation. And so the problem that we thought had gone away is coming back. And then as the cycle of life continues for these locusts, we're going to see another attack. And that was an early warning that was given about a month ago. In terms of what has been done about it, that's a totally different story. But that problem is still not gone yet.
Not gone.
No.
Various organizations have come together and being spearheaded by the government as well in terms of addressing this. We have seen clips and footage of aerial spraying of the desert locusts. We've seen footage of officers on the ground who are trying to deal with this, from even the private sector. The World Bank has also lent its support in this through several programs. The UN FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, ECPE, and other organizations have come together to try and address this issue. So locusts coming in from, up north, and then crossing into Somalia, crossing into Kenya, and then threatening to go into other parts of the region. Some are even being said that they could even cross over into TZ, into Uganda, into South Sudan, and into Ethiopia as well, from Ethiopia or coming into the country. So let's have a conversation now with the Assistant FAO representative in charge of programs. His name is Hamisi Williams, and he joins us on the line. Hamisi is here to let us understand what's happening and what the FAO, because it deals with food and agriculture. This is something that is big. When you see the desert locust infestation in the country or in the region, there is an impact that it's going to have on food security. So let's just start with that. Hamisi, thank you very much for joining us, and good morning.
Good morning, Eric and the team. Thank you for having me.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room, Hamisi. Let's just get straight down into it. What is the current state of affairs in terms of this desert locust infestation, not just in the country, but in the region?
Yeah, thank you. I heard that you already did some very nice summary over there. You do some reading, which is good. But let me say that you rightfully put it that for Kenya specifically, this is a second wave, meaning the first wave came in and we dealt with it. But a quick fact that what we are looking at in Kenya from 2019, December 28th to be specific, was what we call an upsurge. It's not a plague, it's an upsurge. We are seeing intensive kind of invasion. This is what came in, and we dealt with it at that time. A lot of activity for the entire 2020. During the pandemic, we were really in the field doing a lot of work there. So FAO was supporting the government, and for Kenya in particular, we were able to really clear locusts out of Kenyan fields. But immediately when we did our forecast as FAO, which has the mandate of forecasting on locusts and supporting government to deal with locusts, we were looking at the entire region, Horn of Africa, we saw a situation. One is that Yemen, which seems to be a gateway to the Horn of Africa, really didn't do a good job there because there are some conflicts in the region, in that particular country. So instead of concentrating on matters desert locust, which can threaten their food security, I think this was not given a lot of attention. So we got a lot of breeding that happened there. And immediately winds started coming to the Horn of Africa. Then desert locust, being a migratory pest, was easily able to fly across the Red Sea, find itself in the Horn of Africa. The same situation, unfortunately, happened in Ethiopia. You're aware Ethiopia has been having some kind of not stable conditions in some of the fields.
Yep.
This really affects their ability to be able to concentrate and clear the pests from the ground. So a lot of breeding happened in Ethiopia for the entire part of 2020. And the same situation happened in Somalia. So what we are suffering now as Kenya, we are suffering the fate of actually our neighbors who just didn't do a good job for one reason or the other, probably, which was beyond the team that was working there. So we had predicted that because of what was happening in those countries, if winds start now blowing towards Kenya again, the northerly winds, then we'll definitely be able to get a second wave of locust. And this is exactly what happened. And the FAO's prediction then was that sometimes by late December, but unfortunately, because desert locust is a weather issue, so long as winds started blowing towards us, we were experiencing invasion as early as 7th of November. Mandera already had swarms going forward.
So, do I hear you to, first of all, thank you very much for being on the show, but do I hear you to say that this discussion around climate change is the same discussion that one would have when one is talking about the desert locust infestation into this country?
Yeah, yes and no. First, desert locust invasion has been there since time immemorial, even in the biblical times. So if you look at it from that angle, then maybe you want to be a little bit cautious before you really put it onto the weather change or climate change or something like that. But then you look at the other part of it, which is, take for example, this time, last year when we got the invasion in Kenya, why did we have locusts in our fields for a very long time? This is because we kind of saw very intense kind of rainfall in the fields, in the areas of northeastern, where normally you'll have very dry areas. There would be nothing lush there for locusts to feed on, so they wouldn't be able to survive there for long. But for last year, you got some very intense rainfall in those areas which are traditionally dry, and you got so much of fodder which now locusts were able to feed on. They were able to breed, and they were able to give to first generation, second generation, and sometimes even to third generation. So it is something that is both, a yes and no answer if you look at it. Remember, why we got the upsurge. In the Southern Asian territory, there around Saudi Arabia, there's a place there, we call it the empty quarter. For better part of 2017, 2018, climate issue here, because this area was hit by almost 3 successive cyclones. Now, this really is what made locusts, because locusts would traditionally be there, but in a very small quantity. They don't go beyond because there's normally nothing that promotes a lot of their growth. But then we had this cyclone that gave vegetation there, and desert locust is one such adaptive insect, maybe one of the best in the world, actually, if you look at all the insects foliage. So they would breed very fast. They can they go through only 3 life stages, not 4 like other insects will do. So if you give it 3 months, you would have 20 times what you got from the first time. If you give it another 3 months, you will have 500 times. And I'm talking of billions of locusts here, so it's not just one. So this is really what happened there. So that was also a weather issue. And then when now they overblow, the wind starts bringing them down south. They come to the Horn of Africa. They also went to part of Asia. Even in Pakistan, we're fighting locusts, and FAO is supporting. So many other countries are affected in the region.
So how is this being fought? How is this being fought now? Because it is clear that it's in terms of what it's doing, devastating vegetation, devastating livelihoods in the country. How is this being fought?
Yeah, good question. So what is happening now with FAO? We have the technical expertise, we have the money, and we are supporting the government to control desert locust. So what we have done, specifically for Kenya, for example, we've divided our fields into 6 bases, what we call bases of operation. We have a base which we have set up in Mandera, we have a base in Wajir, we have a base in Garissa, we have a base in Isiolo which covers the central part of Samburu, Baringo, and then we have a base up in Marsabit, and we have a base in Turkana. And then down on the lower central eastern here, we have a base in Masinga. Now, these bases, we got assets there. We have aircraft that we do use to spray. We also have ground teams that would also be able to do the control on the hoppers when they are still not flying. So we have this type of machinery. We now have a very good space because we have pesticides in the country. It's unlike last year when we didn't have them, and then COVID pandemic really also hampered our situation. So now we are in good space when it comes to pesticides in Kenya. We are now also in a good space because we measured so much FAO in training and building capacity of the country to be able to deal with it. So, for instance, if you were to go with me to Wajir, you will find the people from Wajir, the youths that we have trained very thoroughly, are the ones that are on the ground, the boots on the ground, dealing with the desert locust. Yeah, you control the desert locust in 2 ways. One, you have to do a lot of surveillance because you have to see where the insect is for you to be able to control it. So surveillance is key. So we got a lot of scouts. Like now in Kenya, we have about 1,200 scouts that we have trained in various counties that are affected. They do this, and we have given them the apps and the gadgets that they use. We call it eLocust 3M, and there's another one we call eLocust 3G. 3M works when you are in network. 3G will work when you are not in a network coverage area. So either way, you are covered, and you are able to send this information that we have cited a swarm of locusts in this place. It will send specific coordinates. These coordinates are processed quickly here in Nairobi. Now we have set up an office. We are supporting the ministry, Desert Locust Command Center, and again in Rome, which is the HQ FAO. And quickly information is relayed now to the control team. The control team will be the pilot, where the pesticides are, and then they will be able to set up and move inside and be able to do the spraying, if at all that's be spraying aerially, or to the ground, if at all that should be done on the boots. Let me just add that on the ground team, I must thank the government again because we innovatively took the National Youth Service, 500 strong men that were thoroughly trained on matters ground control. So these boots are on the ground. We are supporting them to be able to move and control the hoppers, especially when the locust is still not flying. So we have the manpower and the capacity to deal with it this time around.
So we don't see a situation that can be prevented, really. So what we are looking at is a situation that can be managed and controlled. You can't really prevent this, can you, like with other things? So they have to essentially land before you can control or manage the situation?
A good question, because the desert locust is a migratory pest.
Right.
They don't need visa to cross to your border.
Exactly.
Yeah, they will come in whether you like it or not. Like actually, for Kenya, we were largely free. We were very okay, pretty that we were done with this issue, even though we knew that it may come again. But there was nothing we could do because if, take for example, your neighbor doesn't do what they're supposed to do, I mean, there will be very little that you're going to do. Like for now, this year we even experienced a very strange phenomenon because Somalia, I mean, as is, they got a number of swamps in the northern area. Those areas are a little bit peaceful, the areas of Puntland, I think part of Somaliland. And there was some kind of surveillance that FAO was able to do. So we were able to predict that these ones, if they mature and start flying, they can fly to the northern part of Kenya. So you are looking at Wajir, Garissa, and maybe Bandera. unfortunately, a number of swarms left and went into the southern part of Somalia. And some of those areas are no-go zones because of security issues. You are aware of this. So we all of a sudden found around the 9th of November, we had swarms crossing to Lamu. We had swarms now getting into the coastal regions, Kilifi, Taita Taveta. If you heard about those around November, if you saw those type of swarms, we had a few of these swarms coming in. So we are dealing with it, but the point I'm putting is desert locust is a migratory pest. It is something that control must be approached regionally, or if possible, even globally. And this is what actually FAO is trying to do. That's why we are putting together this whole management this time around as the whole of Africa affair. Because whether you do good in your country, if your neighbor, like last year, it is really praised that what we did in Kenya, we actually stopped locusts from going to West Africa in the Sahel region. Because it was so predicted that if we didn't control desert locusts in Turkana, and they started fledging and flying from Turkana, they would find themselves into southern Sudan, part of the west of Sudan, and this would go to the West Africa Sahel region. And they were actually already prepared. But what we did here, we totally stopped that, and that did not happen. And Kenya was really praised for that.
That word, Hamisi, prepared. The first time when the FAO and the other organizations issued that alert that, we are witnessing the possibility of desert locusts crossing into the country, would you say that Kenya was adequately prepared for the first wave in 2019?
Yes, I would say Kenya was actually prepared because what probably you may want to understand is as FAO, we work very closely with the government. So when we issued the alert, we were also issuing it to the government. We were working very closely with the ministry. And immediately the first swarms crossed here, we were able to even first capture, including the date when it crossed here. That tells you there was some level of preparedness. The only gaps that you got that time, Eric, was desert locust was being seen in Kenya after a lull of 70 years. I mean, if you go to my village, I found somebody whose name is Locust in my language, and she's 76 years old. So I was asking her, why were you called this? Told me this is the time when Locust was here. And that's a true story, actually. It's recorded.
Wow.
So you can be sure in 2019, 2020, Kenya didn't have any capacity to deal with desert locusts because this was not our common thing.
Yeah.
You went into the shelves to look for the pesticides to use, and you found they didn't stock it because nobody would keep pesticides that would not be bought for 70 years.
Sure.
And yet you need specifics to be able to deal with desert locust.
Okay.
And immediately after that, if you just allow me 1 minute, when we now started working and supporting the government in FAO, we even started tendering for some of the pesticides from the headquarters in Rome so that we get them worldwide. Then COVID-19 happened, and there was lockdown all over. So this really hampered our ability and the government's ability to be able to deal with locusts. For maybe between January, February, and up to around March, we were actually starting to get a breakthrough, get supplies coming in, training quite a number of now people on the ground and for aerial training. We had even to get some experts here in the country because we really didn't have this capacity that time. So as FAO, we supported with these experts. But I'm glad to say that now Kenya has this capacity and we are able to deal with this from within the country.
So what happens to the vegetation? I mean, I'm thinking about farmers. I'm thinking about those who lost their crop because of the rapid manner in which these locusts would basically come in and ravage, right? In terms of returning to, or at least starting again, how can they be guaranteed that they can, begin the whole process of planting and going into harvesting if the locust problem is still there? I mean, I can understand what you've said about managing it, but now these folks have to start again, isn't it?
Good point. Good point there. So when you are controlling desert locust, you have to look at, you have to be responsible. And as the FAO, this is what we say. So you have to control locusts in 3 stages. Stage 1, you want to just deal with surveillance. Where is the locust? Mark them, train people, create awareness for the communities, tell them we have this locust, Take, for example, you're going to do a control in an area. You got to tell these guys, I'm coming to control. If you see some aircraft over here, please don't stay there. These are pesticides, and you do that. Stage 2, do the actual control. But then stage 3, you must do an impact assessment, and you must use that to be able to address the issue of livelihoods, those that were lost, or you have to recover. You have to recover or protect whatever is left there. So, like for last year, we did, together with the government, Ministry of Agriculture, we commissioned an independent entity that did an impact assessment, and the report was given. And as FAO and government, we've used this particular report. I can speak for FAO, and used it to be able to support communities that were affected on matters livelihoods. We actually just finished a project in Samburu, Isiolo, Garissa, and Marsabit, 4 counties, which was dealing with the unconditional cash transfer, where we were giving some of those households that were affected, some startup monies which they could use.
Okay.
We have also done a lot of distribution of seeds in these counties, a lot of it, tons of it in the counties, so that these farmers could get what to plant. We have also distributed a lot of fertilizer, and we've gone beyond that now. We are also even training these farmers on how to recover quickly from the menace. So this is the livelihood part of it, and it is huge in part of what we are doing when we are controlling locusts. So we are not just controlling locusts and leaving the fields. And Mark, you just forgot, it's not just the crops, it's also livestock.
Right.
And, in those areas, they do a lot of livestock, actually. They are more pastoralists than crop farmers. So you find locusts compete with their livestock on this on forage. And this will also affect them, their ability to be able to get more from their livestock. Sure. And so our efforts on livelihood recoveries and protection also cover a lot of livestock related activities.
Just as we conclude this, Hamisi, if you look at all these mitigation measures that you've put in place, what degree of confidence do you have that this would be able to address the risk of food security that we are facing with the invasion of desert locusts?
Well, the risk is still there, and you can only do so much. So what probably would be critical is for the government to also look ahead. We are doing this. We are supporting the livelihoods, everything, but basically probably we can't get you exactly where you are. So we might have to find other activities, other programs, the projects that should be able to still come in and cushion. The good news is that when locust came first, when it arrived around December, this is a short rain period. And sometimes those who do crops, it will find when crops are already mature in the fields, and these are not really very exposed for locusts to destroy, I can say that. What now the plan we are trying to do with the ministry, and we did a very nice plan of action together, which was launched by the minister and the FAO, is that for this year we want to try and control whatever is in our fields before March, because that's when you start the long rain season.
Yeah.
What you want to do is not to find this pest in our fields when our long rain crops would be in the field, because that will be disaster. Desert locusts can eat everything you have and leave you with nothing in terms of vegetation. It's a bad thing. It's not a joke. So we want to try that, and to do that, Eric, we have the assets that should be very adequate now in the field, stationed very properly in all the affected counties. I can tell you for now, already we've got so many swarms coming in. Actually, we're talking of about 134 swarms that have come in. Because of the winds, a number have come in from Ethiopia and went back. They just oscillate with the wind. So for now, we are still monitoring those borders, the areas of Moyale, around there. But we steadily have about 34 that really came in and have really invaded us. A few of them, about 5, were huge swarms. I'm sure you are in the studio. You've never seen a swarm. One time, I'll take you to the field. You'll see it, and you will see a cloud of.
How many
swarms.
billions in a swarm?
Yeah, we could have as many as 5, 20, 30 million in a swarm. But what we use most is the kilo. We measure the area because one of the biggest, like last year, we had a 40 kilometer by 60 kilometer swarm in Kenya. One of the biggest that you can have. Just imagine that.
That's
a cloud of that moving, it makes the whole thing. So the point is, we have stationed assets and our teams are working even today in the morning. So out of the swarms that already were here in Kenya, we've done almost 70 to 80%. We've treated them. So when they come in, we treat them. We don't want to allow them to get in. And seems like for now, Kenya will be the battlefield because maybe our neighbors still have their issues. So they're probably not doing what they're supposed to do. So we're prepared to deal with what they are sending our way.
So you got your job cut out for you. Thank you very much, Hamisi. Hamisi Williams is the Deputy Country Representative for the UN Food and Agriculture Organization in charge of programs. He's been telling us what they've been doing to address the desert locust infestation in the country. Asante sana for speaking to us and wish you a great day, Hamisi.
You too. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is just one of many talks that we'll be having. We've decided we're going to be having talks about agriculture, about food security in the country, calling it Agri-Talk. And for more on this and other conversations on Agri-Talk as well, when you're listening to Spice FM, you can also tune into KTN's Farmers TV every day between 4 and 5 p.m. with Philip Keitani, having more on Agri-Talk. This is Kenya's biggest conversation at 29 minutes past 7. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The
All right,
weather
cloudy
with
conditions in
Spice
some parts
FM.
of Nairobi. The sun is trying to peek through those clouds today. We're going to see highs of 26 and lows of 14. Nyeri is mostly cloudy at 17 with highs of 24 today. 25 will be the high in Nakuru. It's partly cloudy at 20. It's also cloudy in Eldoret at 20, going to highs of 24. The low will be 14. And we're looking at cloudy Kisumu with highs of 26 and lows of 19. Kakamega is also cloudy at 26. That'll be the high for today, coming down to lows of 17. It's partly sunny in Mombasa at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 24. 24 will be, or rather 25 will be the low in Malindi today, going to highs of 32. Okay, rain showers in Kampala this morning at 20, highs of 26 and lows of 19, where Dar es Salaam is partly sunny at 25, going to highs of 31 and lows of 26. Johannesburg, light rain this morning at 17, highs of 24 and lows of 16. And in Lagos, it's raining as well at 26, highs of 33 and lows of 24, while in Kinshasa, it's mostly clear at 23, highs of 31 and lows of 22.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, so the Southern Bypass still has that issue this morning. So if you can, avoid it. Also up towards town on Thika Road, it's moving very slowly, but it's moving all the same. There's still no signs of police, unfortunately, at this Southern Bypass right at Mutuini. Still no signs of police, and folks are still waiting for that to be sorted out. And hopefully the police will come there soon and that will be taken care of. Okay, don't go into that if you don't have to. All right, coming off of Jogo Road heading towards the CBD, then turning onto Landis Road. Moving very slowly as well this morning. The Eastern Bypass over the Kangundo underpass, part of that road and its infrastructure is in the middle of the road. So also please be careful because it's a potential accident scene. Outer Ring, bumper to bumper. If you are also headed towards Donholm using the other way, expect a delay because the traffic is building up there as well. Everywhere you look, guys, it's traffic. Talk to us on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. If you find an alternate route or if you're stuck somewhere we can give you a way out, do let us know. Text us as well on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
All right,
done right.
8:27 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is
94.4.
Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. This and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. You are with Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga. And we are live on KTN Home from 7 to 9 as well. So, the latest from around the world. U.S. President Donald Trump has been impeached again by the House of Representatives in America. They passed this vote. Trump is the first president in the U.S. to be impeached twice. Makes history. The House passed an article charging him with incitement of insurrection for his role in last week's deadly attacks in the Capitol. He will likely stay in office and finish out his term until the 20th, when the new president, Joe Biden, will be sworn in, because it takes a Senate conviction to remove him, and even after he's been impeached. So this matter now goes to the Senate. Already, what is the indication from the Senate? The Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, has signaled that he's in favor of impeachment, but he has said that the Senate trial will not start until President-elect Joe Biden is sworn in. That is what he's saying. Joe Biden himself has also released a statement. He says, yes, it's a good thing that the House of Representatives has done what it's done today, but it's called on the Senate to remember that it has got a responsibility here. You've got a responsibility as the Senate to do your constitutional job of this. And at the same time, please remember that I'll be coming in as new president on the 20th, and I've got a seriously heavy plate on my agenda. I'm fighting COVID-19. I'm coming to fight COVID-19. I'm coming to reunite a country that is sharply divided because of this election. I'm also coming to try and bring the economy back up on track. And I have all of these things that I need to do. I'll need the support of the Senate in approving some of the nominees that I've made to the government. So all these things that are going to happen are happening. At the same time, US President Donald Trump also released a statement where he says they've received intelligence. He's been briefed by the US Security Service. The security agencies in America have said, even FBI, there's intelligence of planned nationwide armed protests ahead of the swearing in or soon after the swearing in of the new president. So there's serious issues of security that's happening in the country at the moment. They have mobilized the National Guard. The National Guard, thousands of troops have swarmed into Washington, D.C. Some of them are even already in the Capitol building itself, spending time on the ground, on the floor, sleeping and waking up. Yes. The chiefs of staff, these are all the military heads, have basically written a statement sending out a message to all the troops, American troops in the country and abroad, signed by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the vice chairman, and all the other heads of the military forces, the Air Force, the Army, and all. And they've basically told the American troops, we saw what has happened on the ground in Washington, D.C. last week. There is a threat of this kind of thing happening. This is not who we are. This is not why you're on the ground defending the country. Please remain vigilant. When a message is sent out to all the American troops across the world, remain vigilant, it's a very strong message. When the FBI and the others issue a statement saying we have credible information that there is organization that's happening on the ground of people wanting to have an armed protest, not just a demonstration, armed across all the states in the country, that's a big thing. And then President Donald J. Trump also released a statement And just, I'm going to play what he said because this is what he released a statement a couple of hours ago.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak about the troubling events of the past week. As I have said, the incursion of the U.S. Capitol struck at the very heart of our republic. It angered and appalled millions of Americans across the political spectrum. I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values. Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could
No true
ever
supporter of
endorse
Donald Trump could
political
ever
violence.
endorse political violence. This is a statement that very many people have said this sounds completely different from the kind of statements that we were hearing from Donald Trump last week.
Oh, absolutely. It would seem as if he is the one who inspired these individuals who went into the Capitol on the day in which they did. It would seem as if they were getting a message live and direct from him. In other words, you guys, be ready is basically what he told them. Be ready. So now to hear this is as though he's talking from the other side of his mouth, because it would be that the message that these folks who went into the Capitol, who did what they did last week, got a totally different message. And if you also find out that from the reaction of the armed guard that you're talking about, from their reaction and from the warning that they're giving out, is that, all right, he may be saying one thing, but at the same time, we are saying that we must remain vigilant because the threat seems to be very real. That in as much as he's taking a position because it is what is expected of him at that point in the position in which he holds to say something that would condemn violence and not condone it, that you would want to give the position whereby you're saying, okay, guys, this is not what we really want. But on the other side of things, what you're actually saying is the original message that I sent still stands, because these guys don't get the gusto from the air. There is an inspiration that they are following to be able to say, well, you know, we saw some of the clips where people said, look, we're not going to go out and be violent, but we are ready, as we have been told to be ready. And so, yeah, it sounds like a very clear public it's a PR move here, that he would be expected to say this to make it seem as if he doesn't condone any violence. But he seems to be talking out of two sides of his mouth here.
He's basically just a deer caught in the headlights. And I also think, I feel, and that this is just my own personal feeling here, that when Donald Trump was doing what he was doing last week, he was just being the politician that he was and playing the political game in a very bad way with a lack of experience that he does not have experience in politics. So the kind of statements that he was making, for example, calling the people who are coming on to Washington, D.C. patriots and saying that he loves them, and the kind of message that was sending was one thing. But I also feel at the same time that that whole agenda was hijacked by a group of people in America that has always felt this way. That has always felt it's just that Trump is speaking on behalf of, or he's just amplifying a voice that's been there, and that voice needs to be dealt with.
But I think
when you talk
exactly
about now
what he
people
was doing.
who are armed now going to the ground, who are organizing, it's not necessarily because they love Trump. I do not think that the many people who are armed and wanting to go out is because they really love Trump and they want Trump to be in office.
In as much as you wouldn't want to accord him that intelligence, I think that he also knew very well that there are people who feel this certain way. And this is what we said. For him to even get into the presidency in the first place, he was able to say things that were an outward expression of what he knew was a mental state of many Americans. Make America great again. Don't let the foreigners in. Reinstate that position where you had globally. He knew that this was a sentiment of very many people, and he used it. So in this case, deer caught in the headlights, maybe not very clever, having not so much experience when it came to a political position. I think he knew very well what he was doing. And when he put that out there, he knew that there were people who were going to follow. And that is why when he said, be ready, he knew exactly what he was doing. And in as much as he doesn't have that much experience politically, he knows and he knew the impact that it would have if he just put that out there publicly. And he knew that it would go beyond the day when they entered into that office. He knew that it would carry on further than that. And he knew what he was riding on. Even now, he knows what he's riding on still. So even that PR move from that statement that he made yesterday, he knew it would carry on further. He knew.
He could have done the same thing. He could have done this statement last week.
He could have.
He could have, on one hand, and on the other hand, fire out a tweet that says a completely different thing or something that is very subtle in how it comes out. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. So he at that point, the emotional guy, he's playing this kind of politics. He's the very, very much rough around the edges, as we know, as we've come to see. He was doing all those things. There were others who were very much organized in what they were doing. And even now, by the time the entire security apparatus of the US is on such high alert, it's not because of a few insurrectionists. It's not because of a few political statements. It's also because they understand that within this country, there are people who feel a certain way. Within this country, there are people who are easily organized. The armed militia is not like the Chinkororo or the Baghdad boys that we deal with in this country. It is people who are armed, people who are trained, people who have some certain conviction and highly motivated in a certain way, not highly motivated in support of Donald Trump. It's highly motivated in something that Donald Trump was just riding on.
Sure, but he gave them an out. He gave them a platform upon which to act out this emotion.
On that, we're in agreement.
That was the problem. That was a problem.
Part of the problem.
Actually,
not the problem.
If you look at what has happened, you will find similarities with what probably led to the Civil War in America. And why do I say this? There are people who believe that that war was on the moral issue of slavery. But if you look at the real issue behind it, it's the economics of slavery. What slavery represented. Now, there were those who believed in expanding the economics of slavery westwards towards the north. But there were those who didn't. Now, the then Republican Party, when they won the election, and they were of the view that they didn't want this sort of expansion, it meant that the ideas that the South had were put to a halt. Now, if you have such a situation, what then arises is that you feel excluded from that political system. So you ask yourself, what way do we have out? When America expanded its economic basis to simple, basic economics of taking business where it is cheap to produce things in order that you can actually make more profit. Now, what does that mean? It means that industries within America were going to shut down. Industries would become less competitive because just the neighbor across the border, you could do the same thing for much less. If you moved it to China, even less. If you moved it to Vietnam, the same. Now, how does that read politically? You've taken our jobs and taken them to foreigners. So the groundswell simply needs time to build to understand that actually we are being excluded. Now, what isn't understood is that there are people within that country, especially people we refer to as people of color, who had felt this way for the longest time, excluded. It is something that they were feeling, and they were feeling it strongly. And you're right in saying that he then represented this feeling, but it doesn't make it unreal. No. People had lost jobs. People were not able to do the things that they were able to do before. Now, if you look at the economics of it, someone like Trump provided the sort of platform, as you correctly put it, in which such grievances could be expressed. But when you look at a country like America, where, for instance, military service is part and parcel of everyday life, take and just pause and ask yourself, how many people do you think there are in America who've been in the military, have left the military, decommissioned, essentially people who are trained militarily?
Oh, sure, quite a number of people, because you had people who chose the military as an option instead of going to university.
Precisely.
Quite a number.
And then you have the proliferation of arms. It is legal to own arms. So as Eric correctly puts it, when you talk about differences and you talk about insurrection, it's not your garden variety where people throw stones. No, these people are armed and they have the ability and the knowledge to fight. So it is something you cannot take lightly at all.
So then when the security forces and the Joint Chiefs of Staff send out this message and they say this is not who we are, then you want to look at that and say, Pro, you know what? This is who you are. This is who you are. Because if you're talking about years of this pent-up pressure, you know, and now people are saying, and you're saying that these are people who have been trained, they've imbibed the belief for a very long time, and now here they are having been given the platform upon which to express this belief. Do you really think this is not who they are? This is representative of a large group of who Americans really are. So it's not as though they're facing a global threat. They're facing an internal threat. And they really have to look at this. It really, really does have to be looked at from that point that, okay, wait a minute. Whereas within the very fabric of some of the things I believe come against any threat, foreign and domestic, etc., etc. Here it is, domestic threat right there. Not even from any kind of external influence, but from things that they have cooked and fermented over time. This is who you are. You know, this is the reality that they now have to face.
These groups were considered fringe for a long time. They're no longer fringe. If you talk about white supremacists, you see, you cannot talk about white supremacists and not ask yourself, what is it that brings this about? Why is it that this rhetoric of making America great, why does it always seem to resonate and find a welcome home in the hearts of many Americans?
Because it is the very belief that they built this nation on in the very first place. It's the thing
And
that
it's
always
what
keeps rearing
is
its
actually
head.
said
It is
on a
their bread
daily
and butter.
basis. Look, even now, as you look at all the political leaders and their reaction to what happened to the U.S. Capitol last week, they keep saying it's not who we are. This is not the America. We are great. Let us go back to being the great nation that we are. Let us go back to occupying our leadership position. That is it. It's built on that. We are superior.
They don't want to come to
We
reality
are
that
superior. We are better. We are the biggest. We are. Everything else is in the superlative. Now, when someone comes and tells and says, "Make it great again," they are basically reminding you that we have lost it. And this is now the exposure. That's why I say the 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency have not just exposed the underbelly of the U.S., they've basically exposed the U.S. to itself. Even the top, the back of the U.S. This is what it's built on. I'm going to read you an article here written by Professor Jeffrey Sachs, one of many advisors to UN Secretary Generals. He's advised 3 Secretary Generals. New York, the storming of the U.S. Capitol on the 6th of January is easily misunderstood. Shaken by the ordeal, members of the Congress have issued statements explaining that America is a nation of laws and not mobs. The implication is that the disruption incited by President Donald Trump is something new. It's not. The U.S. has a long history of mob violence stoked by white politicians in the service of rich white Americans. What was unusual this time is that the white mob turned on the white politicians rather than the people of color who are usually the victims. That is the difference this time, according to Professor Sachs. So he says, this has been there. This is what they have easily been used and incited to do. When the blacks are coming out to say, let's fight segregation, bus segregation, the white mobs are brought out. When the people of color are coming out on something, on one issue or the other, the white mobs are brought out. And that's why they even use the Confederate flag so easily. And nobody raises a fuss until this time when they're like, hiya, it's a big issue.
Well, they are facing what people of color have faced for the longest time. You see, when you talk about a great nation, you have to ask the question, on whose back was this greatness built? And has there been adequate recognition given to the people on whose back this greatness that you speak of was built? Now, maintaining the status quo, I mentioned it earlier in the program, where people will do certain things so as to maintain the status quo. Unfortunately, that ground shifted. Because if you were to look at America holistically, this is the one nation in the world that is built by migrants. It's a nation of migrants. Start from where you will. The Mayflower. Continue discussing it. Migrants. And on the back of natives whom they found there, the original owners of that particular land, who were decimated, on whom policies of complete obliteration were actually formed. And that thinking did not cease. Even when people were brought in to help grow this economy, whether it is the Chinese, whether it is the Africans, whether it is, you name it, The understanding was that the status quo, there were people who will always remain at the helm. Sometimes I think, lessons learned. Where did the immigrants come from? The sort of systems that they had run away from is the same sort of system now they now brought in to bear on the people they found there.
That's
or on
what
people
they knew.
who actually came in. Yes. Now, they then have a constitution and realize, no, we can't continue having this. We need to have a little change. All the issues that we are dealing with, if you think, whether it's a civil war, whether it's this now, status quo. People are unhappy that the ground changed. It isn't what we thought it ought to be. Why? Because what was favored us. That this isn't quite giving us what we wanted. So the rhetoric about a level playing field, there's evidence that that has been there for the longest time. And people who ordinarily, in other circumstances, in other countries, would not be able to do what they do. In America, it has been possible. So it has been the land of the possible for the longest time. However, the underbelly, that which perhaps many have not been willing to face, now this is what has been brought home. This one. That, yes, indeed, all those wonderful things are true. But what is also true is that this is how you think, this is how you view yourselves, and this is what you've built your greatness on.
What is the desired lesson that the legislators want to put out there by impeaching Donald Trump over this? Is to show future presidents that you cannot joke around. It's to show future leaders that you cannot use such statements and get away with it. Right? That is one. It's for future deterrence. But also at the same time, to reprimand this person for what he has done. Holding him to account for what he has done.
Absolutely.
Does this address the issue, though?
No.
It doesn't.
Does this address this? Let's even say the 70 so million people who voted for Trump. Not all of them think this way. There are those that are just Republicans. There are those that are not Democrats, so they'll just vote. And then there could be some tens of millions who actually feel the way they're feeling. Does this address?
It doesn't stop them from feeling the way they feel. Now, and I said it before, those who then have the opportunity to present themselves armed in terms of resilience, right? They were given a platform. It doesn't stop it. And you can almost definitely say that if given a platform in the future, they will use it again. It doesn't deal with those injustices in their minds that they think they have faced. It doesn't deal with those insecurities. It doesn't deal with the sentiment that they feel that they really want to, ride on this wave of being the home of the free and the land of the brave, etc., and make America great. It doesn't. It doesn't solve the problem. What it does is say that somebody coming in the future, you cannot operate in the way in which you've been operating, and you cannot say the things that you've been saying. You cannot give people a platform for violence and things like that.
But what if
That's
they
it.
do? What if they do?
That's it. You're not dealing with the issues.
But
even structurally, there's nothing of this impeachment that then really bars a future president from misbehaving.
No, it doesn't. But again, it provides an opportunity to address the very thing, because what we're talking about are the symptoms, really, the manifestation of what is the issue. If you are talking about the white majority and those who form the group of supporters that Trump has, you cannot belittle or you cannot second guess the issues that they're bringing out. Even as we look at the issues that people of color have, their issues might also be addressed, because there are issues.
There are some issues.
There are many issues.
Let's deal with the deplorable human being that Donald Trump has been called and whatever he could be. But also, let's talk about the 70 million as well. They need to do that. Anyway, time for us to take a break on KTN Home, 4 minutes to 8 o'clock. These conversations continue into the next hour. We'll be back shortly on KTN. We are still live on Spice FM.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
So U.S. President Donald Trump has been impeached for the second time by the House of Representatives. This matter now goes to the Senate, and the Senate is supposed now to basically get the impeachment hearings going. They have indicated that they are unlikely to do this before the swearing in of President-elect Joe Biden and then proceed with the impeachment. But then at the same time, there is what is happening around the country as they gear towards the 20th of January when the new president will be sworn in. And this is beefing up security. Now there's the National Guard that's been deployed to Washington. The security agencies are deploying in various other cities around the country. The heads of the military in America have sent a statement to all the soldiers in America from American bases beyond the country as well, telling them, all of you be vigilant, because it clearly shows that there's something that they want to forestall. There's a possibility that this could just get out of hand, and they want to deal with it.
You know, if you actually want to look at this thing holistically, what you're wading into is an arena where you're going to be dealing with very many uncomfortable things. Issues that ordinarily you really wouldn't want to look at, but unfortunately, given the circumstances that we have before us, these uncomfortable things are the ones which actually must now be addressed. And they must be looked into, and they must be given the attention that they deserve. In all honesty, I thought that if you're going to impeach someone, they need to be in a position where they're impeachable. But the moment someone ceases to be president, what are you impeaching?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It serves as a lesson. It's a lesson at the end of the day. That even when you thought they were almost out the door,
stop him from ever vying again.
So it's like even if you're dead, they'll still try and kill you again.
Oh, there you go. And then bury you thereafter.
You're killed posthumously.
Or even if you're buried, they'll bury you again.
Yeah.
You know what they say? If at first you don't succeed, try
pun
again.
is intended. It isn't an overkill.
He has got to go. He has got to go at the end of the day. That the way in which he behaved is unbecoming of a United States president. Unbecoming of somebody in that position. You cannot do that. And anybody, I mean, it's a lesson to him, number one. And then it's a lesson to anybody coming in. You just can't come here and behave
that's
anyway,
the debate.
anyhow that you like.
Is it
232 to 197? There's some 197 reps who did not vote to impeach.
Yes.
For various reasons. Some of them, it's been reported, it's because they fear for their lives. You know, back home, what did you do? This is beyond Trump, I'm telling you.
It is, but it is not. It is beyond Trump, but it's the reality of what America is.
It is who you are.
Yep.
Yes.
Indeed.
This is who you
It's
are.
uncomfortable.
Top of the hour, though.
But there it is.
Let's continue these conversations. Let's also cross over into Uganda and find out what's happening in the next hour. Good morning, 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, guys, so police are finally on the scene at the southern bypass, and that's between Gong Road and Dagoretti interchange, where that trailer turned over, and traffic in both directions was heavily affected. So they're trying to sort that one out. But I mean, if you're there, you're stuck for some time. If you can avoid it, this would be the best option, at least for now. All right. Let's look at where else is happening. A loose guardrail on the eastern bypass affecting traffic also. Folks having to move a lot slower. So if you can avoid the eastern bypass as well, please do that. Let's look at other parts. Limuru Road not moving very well, getting into the CBD quite slow as it is. And then coming from Landis Road as well into the CBD also quite slow. Mombasa Road outbound from the JKIA turnoff just past... the SGR, that also is very, very slow. So we're seeing slow traffic today. You're just going to have to be patient. Where there have been accidents, please take care. Talk to us if you get stuck somewhere. Talk to us if you have an alternate route. Spice7KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only
2.5
way to
minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, and we thank you very much for tuning in. Spice FM around the country: Malindi 97.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, Eldoret 96.7, 96.0 in Nakuru, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, and 94.4 in Nairobi. We also live stream the show on Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on www.spicefm.co.ke. And for 2 hours every weekday morning, 7 a.m. to 9, we're live on KTN Home. Seti, as we begin the hour, remind us today's proverb.
No matter how tall the neck is, there is no day it will surpass the head.
Not a single day.
Even if it wakes up very early in the morning, it won't happen.
The neck.
Okay. So, unless it gets the assistance of somebody else, a guillotine, for example.
It doesn't matter what it does.
Who
It
removes
won't.
the head.
It won't.
Wow.
It'll still be the neck and not the head.
Okay. It will not change.
No, it won't change.
Its state and status will remain the same.
Same. Still the neck.
Same station of life.
Still the neck.
Okay. Condemned to just carry the head around.
Solidified. Entrenched.
Okay. So let's now cross over into Uganda, okay? 14th day of January 2021 is the day that people in Uganda have been waiting for. Today is the day they get a chance to go to the ballot to exercise democracy and vote in their new leaders of their choice. So, for example, they're going to be electing new members of parliament, and they will also be casting their ballot for the presidential candidate of their choice. 12 candidates vying for this. We only know of the leading 2 candidates. Those are most vocal and most visible. This is Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and Robert Chagulanyi Bobi Wine. So those 2 are the ones that we're looking at in terms of, this particular election. A lot has happened during the campaigning during COVID-19 times. The Electoral Commission of Uganda comes up with regulations and says the number of people who can meet at any public gathering in a political rally is X. How you conduct yourself, we shall ban you, we shall bar you, we shall penalize you if you flout any of these regulations. We have seen candidates being penalized, including Yoweri Museveni himself, being penalized by the Electoral Commission. We've also seen the security forces, the state organs that are in charge of security, also coming out to, quote-unquote, ensure there is security, adequate security, and protecting the people. So, this has happened a lot, especially during Robert Chagulanyi's rallies. So he's been arrested, his supporters have been arrested. There are people who have died during this period, and a whole conversation happens. But it's come to today is the day that they go to elect a president. Why is Bobi Wine running? So Bobi Wine was interviewed a couple of days ago, and I'm just going to play a clip of him giving a reason why he believes he must stay on the ballot, why he believes that the people of Uganda must give him this chance to lead them.
I did not get in this struggle to name the number of times I've been arrested. I'm in this struggle to liberate Uganda. And before that is accomplished, I don't care how many times I'm arrested, harassed, beaten, tear gas to pepper sprayed. I'm keeping my eyes on the prize.
That's it. Keeping his eyes on the prize, on what needs to happen.
It would appear that, just looking at what he has done in the past in terms of his entertainment, we know that he's an entertainer, and the attention that he's previously received has been from a social context. It would appear that he's not in this fight, he's not in this race, in this competition to get any more attention. He's received enough of it. It seems that there is a change that he's looking for, that he wants to be able to contribute to the leadership of the country, and he will do that no matter what. That it has come at him, all kinds of violence has been meted against him. He's been locked up, he's been arrested time without number, he's been injured, his family has been threatened, people who follow him, his supporters, to the point that some of them have even been killed. Now, he's looking for some kind of change. He wants something different. The question that you sometimes ask, does he want something different in a new leader, or are they and those who support him, are they looking for a different kind of Uganda, or are they looking for a Uganda away from the leadership of Yoweri Museveni? And it would seem that he has been consistent in his resolve to say that no matter what, and you hear the words that he has said, no matter what, I'm going to keep on going. The most recent thing that we heard from him is that if Yoweri Museveni wins the election, that they are going to reject the results.
If Museveni is declared winner.
Yes, they will reject those results if he's declared winner. Because it would then appear that they already have a thinking that they have arrived at. That from the temperatures that they feel on the ground, that it is impossible for them to think that Ugandans will pick Museveni again. That they will choose him again based on what they have seen and how they have felt things being. And that is what leads to them saying that, you know what, if he is declared winner, we know that something has gone wrong. And this something is not in the way Ugandans would have voted, but something would have been manipulated for them to be able to get the results that they did and that which they would have declared. And they will reject those results. Now he's come out clearly and said it. Where before it was a suggestion, it was an assumption, but now he's clearly said, we will reject it. All this that I have done along all this time was not for me to just come and say, all right, they voted, Ugandans have said you, fine. No, not going to take it sitting down. There's a different kind of leadership, a change that Bobi Wine has really been looking for. And he's not going to accept defeat.
You know the strange thing about political cycles, you hear something being said, and there's this, the word is deja vu feeling about that. I've heard this before. Bobi Wine is more or less even word for word saying what Museveni himself said when he became president. He himself was bringing about change. This is what he was doing. So the issue here isn't whether somebody wants change, whether what somebody means well. The issue is what they actually eventually get to that position of power. And whether it is that there are strong enough systems to ensure that the things that you are supposed to do within the law are the things you stick to. And that you are, and that the law and the system is able to actually bring about the buffer or the checks and balances that guarantee that being in leadership means precisely that, something that will bring about the continuous change that you want. Now, sometimes this is what the issue is. When you have someone at the helm for too long, they don't represent change. They represent the status quo. And this continuous metamorphosis of bringing in change into a system is what people look for. Please remember that in 2006, when Uganda had an election in which Dr. Besigye was the contender, their Supreme Court reiterated clearly that indeed there was disenfranchisement, there was voter violence, everything negative that you could possibly want. However, when it came to now issuing a declaration at the end, they voted 4-3 and upheld the election. Okay? So what am I saying? I'm saying that when you look at a system, sometimes you need to pause and ask yourself, okay, this is, by what standard are we judging this process? Is it the so-called fluid international way of doing things? Is it, if I'm a Kenyan, from the Kenyan perspective of what we consider normals, what is it? Because even with all these changes, even with all the violence that is reported, and this is consistent, why is it then that every time you're in an electoral cycle, people seem to quietly say, you know, okay, fine, let's get on with life.
Let's move on.
Yes.
Then let's move on.
Yes.
Over and over and over again. Yoweri Museveni was interviewed by CNN's Christian Amampo yesterday. And before we bring in a political analyst in Uganda who will help us to understand what's happening on the ground, let's hear what Museveni was telling Christian Amampo. This is just a bit of a long 20-minute interview that he had with Christian Amampo.
President Museveni, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Christian.
Okay, listen, I want to start by asking you, you know, 80% of your country is under 35 years old. They weren't even born when you first came into office. And they really seem to want to change. They want jobs. Why do you think you deserve another term?
Well, because I am the one who enabled the 80% to survive childhood diseases, and we have given them education, and we have given them a base for the economy, and we have a good budget, and we can support them. We can support.
This was the first question, and that was the first answer. I mean, he just went off the blocks immediately. Why should they elect you? Well, because I'm the one who ensured that they survived.
I'm alive because they are alive because of me.
They're alive because I put in place, and there are those who will tell you, if you look at it contextually, this is what he's saying. But, you just think, so he decided that they're going to leave. No, maybe there's actually some context into this. Let's bring in Crispy Kaheru, is a political analyst who is in Uganda. Crispy, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Now, Crispy, just right off the blocks, polls have opened in Uganda across the country?
Yes. Well, polls are supposed to open 7 a.m. Yes, many of the polling stations where we're getting reports from have opened. But I think the procedures to commence the voting are just too long, and because there's a integration of new elements. There's this whole voter education at polling stations because of the COVID-19 pandemic context. So the Electoral Commission has deployed voter educators at each polling station to take people through the standard operating procedures, how they need to access the polling stations and all that. And it's taking quite a bit of time. So yes, polls have opened, polling stations have opened, but voting hasn't yet commenced in many of the places because of that procedural element that has been added.
This is going to cause a huge delay if you just think about it. So people are being educated on how they're going to conduct themselves, the SOPs, on the day of voting. Why didn't this happen earlier? Why didn't they use the mass media that is available in Uganda to do this voter education?
Well, it has been happening through different media channels, but I think this is an additional safety valve just to make sure that everything is all right at a polling station. Well, I find this a bit different. If you take a country like Mozambique, they conduct voter education on how a person is supposed to vote at each of the polling stations for each individual. When you step into a polling station, there's a guy who takes you through what is expected of you, and it takes like about 5 minutes. At least here, I mean, the positive side of this is there's a voter educator, so he talks to about say 20 people who are in the queue, and then they let those access the polling station. So this is, a lot better if you compare it to Mozambique, what they do. But I know certainly it's going to cause some delays.
What are the temperatures right now? There's so much that has been said. We hear President Yoweri Museveni speaking about the fact that he feels that he is the best person to have led Uganda over this time and for the future, for the considerable future. We also hear Bobi Wine talking about the fact that, look, we need some kind of change, and it is very clear that we are living in an imperialist country at the moment. What is it? What is the situation now? How are the Ugandan people feeling? The grass, while these two elephants bash heads.
I'll tell you one thing. When we were going to this election, the projections were such that there's going to be one of the lowest voter turnout in the history of elections in Uganda. Why? Because of the COVID pandemic, because of the violence that has characterized the pre-election period. But remember one thing: much of the population in Uganda, it was rightly mentioned by Amanpour, about 77% are young people. So the polling stations right now are filled with so many young people, so many young people in the queues, at least for the polling stations where I've already been, very long queues made up by young people. So that can actually tell you the mood that, people just want to take part in this process. This election is a very defining one, and potentially it could change the political trajectory of the country.
How so?
How so?
Yes.
I think the youth are going to assert themselves. I think the youth are going to call this vote. So in whichever way they call it, but it's going to be about the youth, and that is if the polls go on under the same circumstances, with this mood that has been set in the morning, and the counting of the votes goes on properly, and the results are announced in line with how they're supposed to be announced. So we should expect that at the end of the day, you might see a decision that really reflects what the young people of Uganda feel.
The assumption seems to be that because they are youthful, they will vote for somebody who they can relate to. Yes.
I don't know about that. What I'm saying.
And well, the question I'm asking, I think you can see where I'm going with this. Would that represent the reality? The fact that someone is youthful, do you really think that when they get to the ballot box, that of necessity they will vote for someone who is necessarily youthful?
Not exactly, because the youth vote is not really homogeneous. We can't say that all young people would vote in a particular way. I think that has actually been challenged in previous elections. In 2016, there were projections around how the youth bloc, which was also significantly big by then, would vote. But, it didn't go that way. So it may not necessarily go with that same flow that all the youth will vote in a particular direction. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, the fair, free vote will most likely be a reflection of the young people's aspirations.
One of the things that is a hallmark of our election is the vast amounts of money that people spend in order to try and convince the electorate that they are the right people to be voted for. Now, some of this money just goes into the normal paraphernalia, getting people to know who you are, etc., etc. But some of it goes directly into the hands of the people.
Yeah,
do politicians spend a lot of money vying for these positions in Uganda?
If you look at the previous election, 2016, it was a hell lot of money that was spent by politicians. And how was it spent? Through bribery, bribing voters. There was a research that was done that 12.5% of the national budget for the year 2016 was actually committed to elections, and not election administration, not a budget for the Electoral Commission, but monies that were spent by politicians, trying to convince voters to vote for them in all sorts of ways. Formally, informally, bribery, paraphernalia, media, whatever presence and publicity, and that kind of thing. So it was a big problem in 2016. This time round, I think the context under which we are, the COVID context, put us what I would call a speed governor in the expenses of the politicians, because first of all, they were not supposed to hold the ordinarily big rallies that they used to, where they spend a lot of money busing in people to come to the venues. They were not. They really didn't have to spend a lot on the media. Why? Because most of the media is actually owned by politicians, and they couldn't allow their competitors to use the same, airwaves. So there were limitations. So all they could spend on was social media marketing for themselves, and not much on bribery like we've seen before. So it was a bit tampered this time.
President Museveni has said in no uncertain terms that he feels he is the one that has brought Uganda to where it is today. Would you be able to shed some light in terms of whether Ugandans agree with him?
Well, I am not quite certain that a significant portion would agree with him on that. I think there's one, but there's one thing for sure, that many Ugandans agree that in as far as securing the country is concerned, in as far as ensuring stability, peace is concerned, President Museveni has done quite a lot, and I mean, the Ugandans owe it to him for ensuring that the country has not gone into a civil war for quite some time. That we haven't, had confusion, civil uprisings, and all this confusion that was there way back, coups and all those things. The Ugandans owe that to him. But in as far as the other aspects are concerned, things, if you look at things like the economy, how much the economy is doing, how well the economy is doing, if you look at the social service delivery, health, education, I think Ugandans have their own concerns and may not necessarily agree with Museveni. They think that he should have done much better in those respects. I think the corruption is shot through the roof. And there doesn't seem to be that observable effort to bring this under control. So, I mean, I don't think Ugandans would definitely agree with him in those respects. But I would tell you, largely, when it comes to security, when it comes to the stability of the country, politically, peace, he takes the credit.
Just give us the context of this answer that he gave to Christian Amanpour in that. He was asked, largest majority of the country is youthful people who have been alive and only known him as president. And he was asked why they should vote for him. And you see, his answer was, because I am the one who ensured that they survived their childhood. What's the context of that?
That's exactly the context I'm talking about. That this is my thinking. That he's giving himself credit in as far as ensuring stability is concerned for the country. That, okay, these young people, they're able to survive up until now because there was stability, there was peace, and they could go to school, they could access medical care, that they could, I mean, their parents actually had a sense of a livelihood that was guaranteed. That's what I want to assume. But in as far as the other aspects are concerned, probably I don't think that he's done well, and he should be giving himself all that credit. This is a campaign period. He's a politician at the end of the day, and that could also be the context of his answer.
Let's take a break at this point at 25 minutes past 8. We are online with Crispy Kaheru. He is a political analyst in Uganda. So polls have opened, and Crispy is telling us what's first happening is there's some voter education on the queues. So queues are formed, but the Electoral Commission is conducting some voter education before people now start to actually go and cast their ballot. And this is what had been agreed previously because of COVID-19, because of all these measures in place. So anyway, we have to continue this conversation with Crispy in a short while. First of all, let's look at what's happening in terms of traffic and the weather forecast for the day, especially even in Uganda itself. Good morning. It's 25 minutes past 8. We are live on Spice FM, on KTN Home and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive, and of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. The weather with Spice FM.
It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi this morning at 17 degrees. We've got highs of 26. Let's take a quick look through the country. Nakuru and Eldoret giving those 19 degrees cloudy conditions. Highs of 25 in Eldoret and Nakuru, respectively. Let's take a quick look out of the country into Kampala. 21 degrees. It's raining this morning, even as folks go to the polls. Highs of 26 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam also partly sunny conditions, highs of 31. Looking out into other parts of the continent, in Johannesburg, light rain at 18, highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's raining in Lagos at 26. We'll see highs of 33. Come back and take a look round about the world and see what the temperatures look like.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Okay, still an eyesore in many parts of the city today, focusing specifically on Mombasa Road. If we look from the Gateway Mall out towards Cabanas and then out again past the airport junction, it's bumper to bumper, not moving as quickly as you like it to. The Eastern Bypass, still that problem on the road where part of the guardrail, a loose rail along the Eastern Bypass is out. The Southern Bypass, where there was an accident this morning, is being sorted at the moment. Outer Ring, going towards Donholm, there was an accident this morning. It continues, guys, and there's traffic all over. Heavy traffic also on North Airport Road this morning. Okay, so it looks like it's a morning for being stuck, guys. Talk to us still. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
We're still online with Crispy Kaheru, political analyst in Uganda, helping us to understand and unpack what's happening in the country as they go to the ballot. So, Crispy, what do we expect to see? So, voting happens today. How is the counting done? And then how is the declaration of a winner done?
Just repeat that. Sorry, as a bit of...
It's all right. So I'm just asking about the process now. From this point, people are on the queues, they vote, and then how is counting done? Is it votes? Are votes counted at the polling center? Are they transported somewhere? How is the declaration of a winner made?
Well, this is what we expect to see today. When people are at the polling stations, they will vote. Counting will be done at the respective polling stations. After the closure of the polling process at 4 o'clock, counting will be done. The results from each of the polling stations will be declared at each polling station. A declaration of results form will be pinned outside each and every polling station, at least as far as the law is concerned. That's what is prescribed. And thereafter, these results from each of the polling stations will be forwarded to the districts, and then the districts will forward the results to the National Tally Center for the presidential candidates. And then the National Tally Center has 48 hours to announce the winner at the presidential level. So we expect the results from the presidential elections on Saturday this week. Okay. We should be able to know. Now, particularly for today, there's been some sort of a confusion, I would say, between the political parties, candidates, and the Electoral Commission in as far as what happens after a voter has finished voting. The political parties have been urging their voters, their supporters, to stay at the polling station to protect the vote until the counting process is over. The Electoral Commission, on the other hand, is saying, no, once you finish voting, leave the polling station. But if you want to come back later on to witness the vote count, you can always come back. Mm-hmm. So there's that pulling of a rope in there that we'll wait to see what the voters will listen to, whether they're going to listen to their political parties or whether they're going to listen to the Electoral Commission and the security agencies.
How many political positions are being voted for today?
So today we have the presidential position, the president's position, the members of parliament position. So it's two. It's the presidential and parliamentary election.
Just as we conclude the conversation with you, we understand that you need to go and attend to other matters. Just tell us about electoral observers. So we know that the EAC has, for example, sent a team. We also know that America has pulled out of the election observation mission. What else is happening in terms of election observers?
Well, there's quite a number of international election observer groups that have been accredited. For instance, we have the African Union, which actually arrived in the country yesterday. We have the East African Community. We have the East African Standby Force. We have IGAD. We have, I think, the U.S. Embassy, which yesterday announced that it will not be observing because many of its observers had been denied accreditation by the Electoral Commission. We have the United Kingdom that has deployed observers across the entire country, I presume. We have the Japanese Embassy. We have quite a number of international groups. Now, the challenge has been with the local groups, the domestic observer groups. One, they were unable to get their accreditation well in time, and the few that got it at the last minute. And this has been a challenge. So even when you move around, you don't see many domestic election observer outfits present at polling stations or, moving around, which creates a bit of a challenge. For me, I mean, I'm inclined to assume that the many more eyes we have on the electoral process, the more we can, put it under scrutiny, and the more we can have varied recommendations to improve the process. So I think it's important that ultimately the government rethinks its strategy in as far as election observers are concerned. I think this time it's not worked out as it should.
Okay, so finally for you, Crispy, Bobi Wine has said that if Museveni is declared the winner when these results will be announced, that he will reject the results. I mean, he came out clearly and said that yesterday. What do you make of this?
Well, I think there are concerns that have been put out in the public domain ever since the electoral process was launched. And these concerns are seen in the light of they could actually affect the entire electoral process and its outcome. So things to do with, of course, the violence that has been witnessed on the campaign trail, the intimidation threats. We very well know that these cases where media has also been denied access to, covering electoral activities, and not just denied, but beaten. Journalists have been beaten, and I think those are legitimate concerns to raise ultimately at the end of the process, whether it is through an electoral petition or whether it is through venting concern to the responsible government institutions. I think those concerns are legitimate, and of course we would expect them. And I don't think it's only Bobi Wine that is going to make these concerns known. I think even civil society, the media fraternity, political parties, across the political divide, by the way. We've had even the ruling National Resistance Movement venting concerns about some of the things that have occurred in the electoral process, and, committing to say that we will actually take this on even when the electoral process is over. We will direct them to the responsible bodies such as the Electoral Commission, such as the security agencies, and all the different stakeholders in the electoral process. So it's not surprising.
Okay.
Crispy Kaheru, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, and we wish you all the best as you go ahead with the monitoring and observing the elections in Uganda as they take place.
We need all the good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and have a good day. Well, the conversation continues. You've heard from Crispy. You've heard what he says. This is what's happening in the country right now. The run up to this, we've been having conversations. This is a D-Day. Ugandans are out there. Very many youth have turned out to vote. Long queues already. But so far, peaceful. And we see this very many times, especially when polls are open. It begins very peacefully.
Or in this case, not quite when it was expected to. So then you have an unintended pressure that has started to build up because things didn't start at the time when they were supposed to have started. Certain things being taken into consideration, COVID guidelines here and there, reporting of election officers hasn't quite yet happened. It's supposed to have started an hour and a half ago. So then you have people lining up and already tensions building. But of course, not to feed into any kind of narrative that, things are already looking bad and, there's a lot of tension because of the violence and such. But to say that already you had a situation where a platform had been built whereby, there was that pressure that people were feeling. And then to have things start late.
Yeah.
Again, when you only have a certain number of hours towards the end of the election, and you already have people lining up, it feeds into that pressure.
However, if you actually even think about it, even in our own elections in this country, on the day of voting, that first hour between 6 and 7, or even up to 6 to 9 a.m. in some polling centers, there's usually a lot of confusion. Somebody has turned up and their details are not on that polling center. So people say, I'm a voter here. I'm a registered voter in this particular polling station, but my name is not being found. My details are not being captured. Others who say, we're coming and we're so many, and these guys seem to be disorganized. What is wrong with them? They don't know how to organize us in streams. Those ones who are the K's are very many in this particular area, or those who are the O's and the A's are very many in this. They should have known that from the very beginning and have A1 and A2. These things happen. And then now it takes off and tensions calm down because there is that excitement of people waking up very early in the morning to say, I'll be the first on the vote, on the queue.
But I don't know, my experience with the voting process in this country, it's usually very peaceful. In fact, even with all the inconveniences, people chat away, talk, they may complain, but it's actually, one could even argue it's almost a pleasant day. Because once those things are sorted out and you have figured out where it is that you need to go and what you need to do, everything flows fairly smoothly, really. Not fairly, it flows smoothly. So if an observer unit was there, they will rightfully conclude the elections were peaceful. But it isn't about that particular part of the process.
No.
That never is the issue.
No.
People actually vote and they vote well.
It's not the issue, though. You have the run-up to the vote.
Thereafter.
And you have the things that would happen thereafter. Based on whatever results then would come out. And look at Uganda specifically so. I don't think there's been one day when there hasn't been drama during the campaigns of this particular election from the last 9 to 12 months. There's just been one thing after the other, and people were waiting for this opportunity to get to the polls, and then it is on that backdrop that people are feeling this tension. Not for anything else except for, the violence that we've seen, the drama, the expectation, all of this. People are voting on that.
The real danger here is taking the violence that we keep reading and talking about as normal. That to me is a real danger.
That it's expected to happen.
Yes, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be expected. It shouldn't happen.
Shouldn't be accepted either.
When I say expected, it's because normalcy should be you simply go and vote, it's counted, and then we wait for the results.
Well, there's campaigns, people come and they hold their campaign meeting here and then they move on.
Yes. That's what it ought to be. But it isn't. And when all these upheavals that we read about and talk about happen often enough, and then we say it is normal. Now, that's where the problem actually begins. Because you then accept that in an election, there will be violence.
But how do we cure ourselves of that? Because that happens also in this country.
Oh, yes,
That's part of the reason why very many people do not want to participate in an election process, especially by fronting themselves as candidates. They tell you this is a dirty game. Guys are going to come and attack you. They'll come and hurl things at your home. They'll attack your family.
They'll insult you in public.
They will insult you in public. If you're a woman, you'll be harassed. They will face all manner of negativity. How can we cure ourselves of that? Because it's the same thing that needs to happen. We see that kind of stuff happening even in this country. So where rowdy youth come in, police react, police know one way of reacting, they lob tear gas, and then it just goes south. Violence happens.
Remember, these things don't happen on their own, they're instigated. So it means that it's a status quo that some people prefer to have as it is.
People can only, but you see, the thing is, people can only, especially in political competitions like this, people can then only thrive on that imbalance, right?
Yep.
If things are peaceful, it's like they say, you want to navigate deep waters, you must find the path through which it's choppy. If you go on smooth waters, you likely would hit a rock. So you must go through the path that you can't navigate the waters if it's not choppy. So it's the same thing here, that unless there's you can't make your way through unless you're dividing at some point.
For
It
some
would be the
people that-
same way that this is seen as a political competition.
It's like that is the political playing field that we are accustomed to. And we are accustomed because there are people who ensure it is maintained. Because like when we talk about rigging, electoral fraud and all these things, people complain about it at the national level. It happens at the level of party nominations.
Yep. For the lowest seat.
Yes, before you even get to a national election, just the nominations, there are issues there.
So
And that- yes.
are we saying that we cannot have elections then? We can't have elections where things are peaceful, whereby you go into campaign season and everybody understands and all sides are heard and people then actually make a decision and a selection based on what they want and not what they've been maneuvered or manipulated into thinking.
As a society, we have refused to get there.
But we can.
We can, of course. And I'm saying that because it's not just with the political and general elections. Look at even elections into these bodies. Look at professional bodies. In the previous number of years, when you've seen elections for the Law Society of Kenya, for example, yes, they will not throw stones or throw each other under the table, but there will be some lot of negative
They throw
vibe
something, that's
that
what
goes
it-
around,
yeah.
okay? On the candidates, on who they are, on branding each other, on saying this one represents the status quo, this one because of their tribe, so therefore all the people of this tribe are going to go. This is, it's what we've created our culture to be. That the issue of whether this person represents some ideals that resonate with me is second or third. The first one is, what's his name? Okay, so this guy represents that region. So this region and where they sit politically, nationally, so this is what they are doing. And this is a professional body that is electing people to actually represent them professionally. It doesn't matter, Law Society, ISPAC, all of them. That is the kind of thinking that we have.
It can be changed.
Go to the universities. Look at the university elections for just student leadership. It goes into the same thing. So if this guy wants to be the chairman and is this tribe, then this treasurer must be this tribe, or the vice chair cannot be this. We go there. What do they do? Where do they come from? Who are they aligned with politically?
Do you remember that an election took place in Ghana just a month ago?
Yeah.
On the 7th of December.
Have they agreed to disagree?
They've agreed to disagree. Things are okay. There was peace. Did you hear any violence before or after?
There was no
a
violence.
Suggestion, there was a suggestion of the rejection of the results, and then that went before what they called an election tribunal, and everything was thereafter sorted out. And Nana is back in the presidential seat, and things are moving on. Until we had some East African commentators who said, what's wrong with these Ghanaians? Don't they understand that when an election comes about, we need at least some blood to be
drama.
spilled? We need some drama. What's wrong with these Ghanaians?
Okay.
It seems as if that is the thing that we have picked up on to say that it must. If it doesn't have any kind of, then we're not going to. We don't feel as if you've gone through an election. It's possible to get to the
Respecting a
place.
system that you've set in place without manipulating it. It begins with the leadership, and I'm going back to political parties. Are political party leaders willing to let a so-called democratic process take place?
Really take place, not in just words.
That's where it starts. And that's where the seed is planted. Because, and instead of then having this situation where you have to elect people, why don't you just do away with that system and let political parties appoint? Because it's an option. We see it in certain developed nations. Political parties decide, so and so you will represent us there and we'll vote for you. But the reason why that works is because political parties not only sponsor you, but they're responsible for the whole process of even campaigning. We have a system where you, the person who is seeking political office, are the one who has to do all these things. It is your money, it is your this, it is your the other.
Plus, the power that you hope to get is very sweet. If you have tasted it before, you're akin to a lion who has tasted blood. You will either have to put that lion down, or you just have to accept that it will continue eating humans. That power is very, very sweet. And that's why you see the problem with a lot of folks who are not willing to let it down. That's why we see a lot of the violence, a lot of the nonsense that we see happening after, because nobody wants to let. And those who have been on the outside also realize the sweetness of this power and want to get in on this thing. And I think that what affects the mind, what affects the psyche, is that desire so strong that you will do anything, manipulate, maneuver, until the point that we've even seen human lives being taken. Things like that will happen because you must get into that position.
Do think of this for a second. When people are sent to, say, political leadership positions or even to a national leadership position, man, they go through a hell of a lot, if I may use the term. Now, the human element in them, are they then willing to simply just
let it go?
They look at everything, no?
After all that I did for this.
Yeah, you can.
And then if you had been in that position where you've tasted the power and all these nice things that come along with it, do you think you're really ready to let it go? Aside from your personal sacrifice, you're really ready to let it go just like that because somebody has come along and said, yeah, well, I'm going to give this thing a go and see how I can also get there. It's not that easy. From a human perspective, it's not easy.
No, from a human perspective, it's almost
impossible.
Yes, it is almost impossible. However, that is why systems are created, and that's why even laws are created, because human nature on its own, if left unchecked,
so that's why I think
unpredictable.
It's chaotic.
The quest then should be to become law-abiding, because the reason why we see a lot of this violence that comes as a result is because the human nature wants to tend towards the opposite. You don't want to really be law-abiding.
But remember, one of the things about power is that people in those positions then consider themselves to not be above the law, to be the law.
The law.
Yes. Now, when you do this, what you're doing is you're setting examples whose consequence you may not fully understand. And the ramifications on you you may not also fully understand. Now, we have had situations where we've pointed at the executive and said, there are court rulings that you're ignoring here outrightly.
Yep.
This is not good. You're setting a terrible, not a bad, terrible precedence. Now, this issue, again, of precedences and dividing the cake, look at how it pans out when you look at political positions and when you look at representation of appointments, especially in political positions. People complain about it, but yet we've normalized it to the point where we actually expect it. So that when you have a leader who does not do that, you wonder what is wrong with this person. Does he not know that he is in that position so that he can favor his X and Y?
We call it the game. That's the game.
Yes.
That's the nature of the game. Hiyo ni siasa. We just pass it on. Right? But what do you expect? That's how politics is played.
But it's not
that's our politics.
I don't think that if people had a blank slate upon which they were working on, I doubt that would be the position that they would take. I think there's been an immense conditioning that has happened on the minds of people, immensely so, to think that this is normal.
Yes.
But if you had a moment where you take it back to zero, this is not normal.
It is not,
it
should never be
normalized.
I've said it very many times that we got into a point in our country where the politician has actually usurped the power of the people to such an extent that the politician believes and has made us believe that they are the number one in the country. Look at how we even talk about, electoral reforms and all. It is from the point of the politician, not from the point of the voter. It is from the point of is the candidate, the political candidate, going to be happy and satisfied and therefore accept a result? Not is the voter going to be able to exercise their will and their right properly. That's not, we talk about, let's reform the IEBC. Let's reform the IEBC from the lens of the politician. Because the politician, if the politician does not feel they're justified, then this IEBC is wrong. What do you mean? No. It should be the other way around. If I, as a voter, I feel that the Electoral Commission is well structured, that I can go and exercise my right, I can access the polling center, I can cast my ballot, my vote shall be counted, my vote will matter. That's it. You, as a candidate, second.
Not to put too fine a point on it, remember when political parties were actually allowed to play a very important role in determining who is a commissioner of the IEBC? And they did, didn't they? Did that stop them from complaining?
No. Well, they'll argue and tell you, the best electoral commission that we had was the IPPG one. Because all political parties felt comfortable, they felt represented. You see, looking at it from the lens of the politician. So if all of them were stealing the vote, and they could then, here you've stolen, there you've lost, so we've balanced it out here and there, then it's fine. Because it doesn't mean that the elections that took place, for example, in 97 or in 2002, or those ones, there were no irregularities. Were there irregularities? Yes. Was the voters' choice 100% considered? No. And that's why there were petitions. That's why there were some petitions that even did not go through. That's why we got to a point where Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga were complaining and feeling, no, but this electoral commission, you guys participated in choosing it. So chill.
Yes. It's like, you see, you develop a whole new culture of complaining irrespective. And then turning your back on something that you are part to. When you have a situation, if you don't understand the evolution of it, when you have a deputy president speaking as though he's not in government, what do you think that tells you?
That he's not in government.
Or you hear a leader of a political party complaining and talking about someone favoring his clan's people or people from his community. And you wonder, really? And you, Jay? And you? It's like it is accepted that we will be hypocritical. You are normalizing something that shouldn't be normalized. You are accepting ills and rebaptizing them and calling them virtues.
They're not.
And then you complain. Remember when we were talking about the government efforts to ensure that people who didn't have jobs and people who didn't have an income were supported during COVID? Then you hear a person who's supposed to disburse these funds is levying a tax. And you think, goodness gracious me, what sort of madness is this? You have a job. This person,
you have an income,
yes,
and you're helping somebody who does not have an income.
And it's your job to just disburse it. Suddenly, you have made yourself
a toll station.
Yes. and that is considered normal.
Imagine, we've normalized it. Time for us to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since 7 o'clock. Join us again tomorrow, Friday, from 7 to 9. But these conversations happen every weekday morning on Spice FM, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. My name is Eric Latif. We have C.T. Muga and Ndu, of course. See you again tomorrow, KTN Home. But tune in to Spice FM to continue the conversations. Good morning.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
So we're discussing,
Spice up
these
your life.
kind of political manners because the Ugandans are going to an election, and we've heard what is happening in Uganda. We've seen polls have opened, largely peaceful. There's some sort of disquiet there because queues are long and they seem not to be moving because the Electoral Commission is conducting some voter education on the ground, basically explaining to people what they expected to do as they go to cast their ballot in strict observance of COVID-19 rules. Okay? Now, going back into that interview with Yoweri Museveni by Christiana Mampour of CNN, and where she also took him to task on what's happening in terms of the violence, number one. Number two, the election observers. And his response was, first of all, there's a statement by the UN. We do not like to be lectured all the time by other people on how we are conducting our election. We Ugandans have the best experience of Uganda. Others don't have the experience that we have of Uganda. If you want to know anything about Uganda, ask me. Don't come and tell me how it should be. You don't know as much as I do. Comes off as arrogant, but at the same time comes off as some truth.
Not some, a lot of truth. A lot of truth. How do you become an expert on the things that happen in a country because you've studied it and you think that you know more than the people who actually live there. How is it possible? The expert, if you're referring to issues in a country, the experts are the people who actually live there. Not the people who study, because the study, you'll be getting information from the people who actually live there. So, who knows more about it? You, the person who was given the information to then bring about this collection of knowledge that you have, or the person who gave you the knowledge? Who is the expert?
Sure, but then it's coming from Museveni and his view of how the Ugandan people have been helped. According to him, he has been the messiah for Ugandans. Now, once the same people, Ugandans who live in Uganda, might have a different view. And these, in many cases, are the people who are talking to those who have formed this opinion. So Museveni thinks that he has done a certain thing for Ugandans. The Ugandans themselves, in addition to him, might think something totally different. And this sentiment didn't come out of the blue.
No, it didn't, but it also holds water in this sense. If there are people who were born at a time when there was peace and stability in Uganda, that issue of sacrifice they will not understand because it's academic. The turmoil that was there before, they read about, they hear about, but it has no direct bearing on them. These generational changes are the ones which actually often bring about even these political changes, because you have people who perhaps did a certain thing which was important at a certain time. The other generation have no clue what on earth you're talking about. Yeah, they've heard about it, they think, but then they ask the question, so what? It doesn't resonate. And if it doesn't resonate, you can say all you like, but they will not go along with your thinking. Simply because they cannot actually resonate. No. You talk, for instance, if you talk to someone about walking many miles to go to school or running many miles to go to school, and they're born at a time when you have motorcycles,
you have school transport.
School transport. How exactly do you expect them to relate to all this? Running is something they know you do in the evening to keep fit.
Yep.
Not part of your everyday life.
To get where you're going.
No. Or walking as it's just the means of transportation. You walk. Time plays a very, very important role in everything that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And it's the arbiter. It determines many things. Well, it's not whether you're good or bad. Time. And that time will have represented the sort of change that if you're not tuned into, will overtake you.
So these conversations continue as we observe what's happening in Uganda in coming days. As you heard from Crispy, we expect the Electoral Commission to formally declare a winner on Saturday. That's about 48 hours after the polls close. Polls close at 4 p.m. in Uganda. Not 6 like here. They open at 7, not 6 like here. Difference. We are posing the question on social media. If you were to vote in Uganda, who would you choose as president? Many are saying Bobi Wine, others are saying Yoweri Museveni, others are saying, Kenyans are saying they'd vote for Bobi Wine, but they'd vote for Museveni's friend in Kenya. Okay. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi.
Just
Traffic.
a little bit is what you get in terms of reprieve for Nairobi today. Certain parts of the city where traffic was heavy still is on Mombasa Road, still is on the eastern and southern bypasses today. Trying to get yourself into the CBD or then out towards Thika Road from the eastern bypass. That slowed down some because of the accidents that we saw. Getting into the CBD, however, now from Langata Road and Gong Road, not looking too bad. Coming out of Westlands as well, it has improved much. But he's still asking to where it has slowed down that you just exercise some patience so you can get where you're going. We're not officially out of traffic hour just yet, still moving slowly in some areas, but be careful. I don't think anybody should get stuck majorly, at least not now, but we will keep you abreast just in case. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2 minutes after 9. Thank you very much for keeping it locked on Spice FM or online on Spice FM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. As we get into this final hour, we'd like you to participate in the conversations by calling us on 0719-012-600 or also just answering to our queries on social media. CT, what is today's proverb?
No matter how tall the neck is, there is no day it will surpass the head.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how tall the head
is. No, the neck.
The neck.
There's no day it will surpass the head.
There's no day it will surpass the head.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure you didn't have this in mind, but let's just talk about this particular story today. Acid test for William Ruto as pressure mounts for him to step down. That's a headline in the Standard this morning. So we know that some leaders from the Amani National Congress held a press conference the other day, and they said that they'd like to proceed with some impeachment motion against the deputy president. Kisa na maana, the deputy president appears to be pulling the opposite direction of the head, and this is the president. Second one, the deputy president appears to now be supporting a completely new, different political party, even though the leadership of that party has told us that that party is in coalition with Jubilee. But the deputy president appears to be there, and very many other calls of the deputy president appears to be not in government anymore, but he's pushing a different agenda as he heads towards 2022 campaigns, seeking to become president. This issue of threatening an impeachment is not the first time we're hearing it. I've actually heard it a number of times, not once or twice, from Senator Jim Orengo in political rallies where he has said, we're going to impeach this man. You wait. We're going to impeach him. If we look at what the leaders are saying with regards to this, they've been quoted in the paper. Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. says, ANC is acting clever. Siaya Senator James Orengo used this tactic in the Moi era. It's not the success of the process that matters, but the fact that the DP will be discussed is a milestone. Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka says he criticized the deputy president over his opposition to calls for a rotational presidency, claiming Ruto populated his cabinet slots in the Jubilee administration with individuals from one community. Of course, we also know that the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi challenged the DP to resign or be impeached for disrespecting the president and his apparent lack of support for Uhuru's Big Four agenda and the BBI legacy projects. The ODM leader Raila Odinga has hit out at Ruto over his hustler movement and commitment to empowering the youth, saying the DP is promising economic mobility while ignoring projects and the BBI that would have made true this dream. So for that, there's all this talk now of, you know what, maybe it's about time that we asked the deputy president to step down, or we follow the constitutional way of having him step down. Hold water.
Why on earth would he step down?
What has he done most recently?
Huh?
And this thing that he
Why
has
would he
done,
step down?
What has he done most recently that now has brought about these calls?
What is this impeachable offense that he has committed?
Not pulling in the same direction as his boss.
Okay.
Well, is that impeachable? Has he broken any law?
Some would argue, remember, very many people would argue that that is going against the role of the deputy president as prescribed in the law, which is to deputize the president.
If you want to extend that argument of deputizing, you could argue he's genuinely deputizing.
By? By opposing what the president is doing.
Yes, that is deputizing. Deputizing the intentions and the purpose that they had set in place. And that if it isn't going in the direction that was intended, he deputizes by ensuring that he points to the direction that should have been followed and which isn't being followed. Oh, you really have to expand the meaning of deputizing here. Unless we want the sheepish way of saying deputizing simply means you follow, even if it means blindly, you
Be
just
a yes
follow.
person, yes.
Now, if you're not being a yes person, then you can't be deputizing. And I'm saying, actually, you can be deputizing and not necessarily be a yes person.
Let's see, even Mount Kenya KANU leaders have come out to speak about this. Kirinyaga KANU chairman John Ngure is quoted in the Standard this morning. He said it's time for the DP to officially join the opposition and leave the Jubilee administration. He is always against the president. He says Ruto has for the longest time undermined the president in public while building up his political ambition, and it could no longer be tolerated. Hence, it's time for him to step aside. Okay? He said Ruto should now pave the way for those in support of the president, his agenda, and the future of the country, because the deputy president appears not to be doing that. The deputy president appears now to be, for example, when the Jubilee says that it's not going to have a political candidate in the Msambweni by-election, the deputy president is there with a candidate. And the deputy president comes out and gloats that, you see, our candidate won in Msambweni. The deputy president is there saying our candidate for the Nairobi gubernatorial race is going to be Margaret Wanjiru, who, by the way, is a candidate who has received a nomination ticket from another political party that is not Jubilee.
The one time in this country where the very thing that you're saying has happened was when Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Raila's father, differed with the president and his friend, Juan Jomo Kenyatta. And he resigned and formed his own party, Kenya People's Union. And as they say, the rest became history. Now, in other times, we've had vice presidents changed. But we've never had a situation where somebody in the position of a vice president or deputy resigning. Well, deputies, with this constitution, we then have a deputy. But people in the deputy position resigning? No.
Well, I think it's quite clear. I mean, he's not going to resign as deputy. He's not going to.
The question is, why would he?
He's not going to resign. I mean, I don't think that enough calls strong enough to put enough pressure on him to say, okay, you know what, you're not, towing the line. And then because of that, says, okay, actually, I've thought about it, and I think the best course of action would be for me to step down. I don't think that is going to happen. In terms of the pressure that we put on him, I then have to ask myself, is there really this call that people have seen, this fellow actually is not behaving in a way that is honoring the presidency or showing loyalty to the presidency? I don't think that it's necessarily because he has acted in a certain way or that it would do something for themselves if they call for his resignation or if they call for his impeachment. Looks better on them when they're pointing the finger at someone else as opposed to saying he has actually done something wrong. It looks better. Now, do I think that he has been disloyal? I think that in terms of pulling his weight to support the presidency, it hasn't shown very well for him. Unfortunately, it hasn't. We heard about the creation of this new party. Okay, they've said it's not a party; it's just an affiliate of Jubilee.
Given that was a political statement, it means it is a party. But go on.
But okay, words are words, right? So if that was created, and he himself, as the deputy president, has endorsed a candidate that seems to be operating outside the realms of the leading party itself, you're showing that you're not really, aligned to what the party itself is asking you to do. Different from what the president is even talking about completely. He's not hidden he's not hidden the fact that in terms of things like the BBI, whether it's right or not is not what we're discussing now. He has always shown that he is not going along with what the presidency is asking, or what the presidency is showing for the people of Kenya. He's always shown, for the longest time, he's shown that really it's not his, it's not within his interest right now.
Ask yourself a simple question. I don't know whether this is true or not, but there are schools of thought who believe that a great many of the powers that were vested in the office of the deputy president were then shifted. And they say many of them were shifted to the office of the Minister for Interior. So, arguably, if powers are shifted or functions are shifted, it means you are where you are with an empty slate. What you officially can do is next to nothing.
Okay.
So are you using this then? So are you saying that now the actions, or in some case inaction, is kind of like a silent defiance of the fact that you are not able to do anything, that your political wings have essentially been clipped, and so the things that you would do, the things that you would say, are representing some kind of defiance to the fact that you really can't move?
Actually, what I'm saying is that you've been given a lot of time and room to do exactly what you want, because there's nothing holding you down. These things that you really genuinely need to do as part of your functions aren't there.
Someone else could also argue that even those powers that you say that you once had were not formally given to you. Because the Ministry of Interior was there, the presidency was there, the Ministry of Interior was doing what it was still doing. Okay? Some of those functions were not under an office of the deputy president, they were under the presidency.
What I'm referring to
So if it was under the presidency, and now the presidency is still there, and the office, under the office of the president, the Ministry of Interior is still there performing some of these functions, it's just delegation.
And the supervisory role of the minister or the CS to supervise other ministers,
That is fine.
is that a ministerial job?
It was not. It was never a deputy president's job.
Ah.
There was no executive order that had initially placed that role on the deputy president. That you
there
can
was-
then say it has been removed from the deputy president and given to the cabinet secretary for interior.
But it was a role within the presidency.
It was.
And so if one
And it
argues
still is.
that the deputy president is the official deputy, then indeed roles such as the one we mentioned could very well have been part of his functions.
And it still is, because you are the deputy president. But in terms of now supervising ministers and all, and creating just a committee that ensures a smooth running of operations in the government, and then this is given to one of the ministers, you're not a minister, you're a deputy president, Bwana. You chill. This interior cabinet secretary reports to the presidency. You are a member of the presidency.
You know,
What's
when we use the word
what's the complaint?
presidency, it's like saying that the presidency is a co-presidency. It
Yeah,
isn't.
it
There
is-
is a deputy, the president, and there's a deputy.
Yes.
All of you make up the presidency.
Yes, but there is one who is.
There's a neck and there's a head.
Thank you so much.
Now, if a neck is trying to be long, just remind it there's a head.
So all this elongating you've been doing all this time is basically what we're telling you, that you must remember that there is a head.
And you
And
think,
you follow, do you, as you are looking at your body now, do you see the head going this way and the neck going this way? No, the neck must follow the head where it's going. Support, which is what you've been asking. Support.
actually, if the neck and the head separate, then actually you will have entered a different realm of
Called
existence.
death.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but while you're alive, while this body is alive, the neck is to support. The neck is to provide support for the head.
If the neck refuses to turn, then the head is not able to see the other side.
You see, what we are saying here is
if
that
the neck refuses to bend, the
there-
head will not
There
see
is
out.
this Western concept about political positions and other positions of authority where if things aren't working as they ought to, you resign. Resignation is not our culture. It's really that simple. Whether it is in government, whether it is in the political sphere, people don't resign. Voluntarily, hardly ever.
Okay. So let's go to the break and ask you this question. Do you support this new push, political clamor to introduce the impeachment of Deputy President William Ruto? Do you support that new clamor to have an impeachment against Deputy President William Ruto, or even the demand that he steps aside from government? What are your thoughts? 0719 012 600. Let's take a look at the weather.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good job.
Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
what
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
The weather with
so
Spice
the sun is
FM.
peeking through in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 26 today and lows of 15. Looking into Nyeri, mostly cloudy conditions at 18. Highs of 24. The highs will be 25 in Nakuru. Cloudy at the moment. It's also cloudy in Eldoret at 19, going to highs of 25. 26 will be the high in Kisumu at 21 currently. Kakamega is cloudy at 20, going to highs of 26 today. Sunny conditions in Mombasa at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 24. It's also sunny in Malindi at 27. We'll see a warm high of 32 as well. Kampala, still raining in some parts, 21 degrees at the moment, going to highs of 26 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is sunny at 28, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Light rain in Johannesburg at 19, going to highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's also raining in Lagos at 26. The low will be 24 and highs of 33. 31 the high in Kinshasa. Mostly cloudy at 23. Taking a look then into Beijing, it's sunny at 2, highs of 3 and lows of -6, where Paris is a bit warmer today, 9 degrees and cloudy at the moment, going just to a high of 10 and lows of 2. It's raining in London, and so it's quite bitterly cold at 5 degrees still, highs of 8, coming back down to lows of 5, and mostly cloudy in New York at 4 degrees, highs of 9 and lows of 1.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
William Ruto resign as deputy president, and in the absence of that, do you also support this new clamor by some political leaders from the ANC and others from KANU to have impeachment against the deputy president? Jimmy in Malindi, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Fine, thank you. Going straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't support the impeachment of a deputy president with reasons.
Yep.
When you say about impeachment, we must have a concrete reason for impeaching. Yes, but not a malicious impeachment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we can impeach the neck before we impeach the head.
Interesting.
So William Ruto, we know very well the president is supporting. He has been with Raila, and we know very well that William Ruto has also followed another road, and the president is following another road. And the first person to start following other roads was the president. So, yeah, it reaches a point where you can push a man to the wall until he reaches, there's no other way, he has to push also back.
So he pushes back.
I don't see the point where, and the reason why William Ruto can be impeached.
Okay.
Because if it's corruption, there's nowhere people can say that William Ruto has stolen this, has stolen that.
Okay.
They can say people have stolen, just like the same way the president also has a clique of people who have also done corruption. You see?
Yep, we hear you.
If you look at I don't say the president has done any corruption, but the people around him, some of them,
Okay.
have done it because it is there. It's on the limelight. It's everywhere in the news.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Like the COVID billionaires and all these things.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right.
So I don't see a reason for us to impeach the deputy president. We cannot impeach him.
Okay. Asante sana. Let's hear from Kuria in Nyeri. Good morning, Kuria.
Morning, guys. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Kuria.
And last year he talked about key performance indicators. I mean, your HR should look at your appraisals and make you better. Now to the point. Now, in politics, any publicity is publicity. Whether bad or good. If I were the ANC guys, I would not push to remove this guy from power, Ruto. What I will do, I would try to impeach Jubilee government because they have a bill on economic stimulus bill. You remember there was a bill that they had ANC. So if that is the bill that they are publicizing in they are doing publicizing in the whole country about that bill economic.
Yep.
Then who would be gaining airtime? It is them. It is ANC, not William Ruto. But now any publicity is good or whether bad or good is in favor of William.
So they're playing into the hands of William Ruto by basically just saying impeach William Ruto. They're putting William Ruto in the headlines.
Even what now? Wait for the newspapers either tomorrow or next week. Who will be in the headline? Ruto.
Okay.
So even everyone will be in Ruto. But if they were going for the bill and saying, you know what, we are saying we have this economic stimulus bill.
Yep.
This is what we are going with. This is why we want to impeach the Jubilee government because they have been unable to deliver in terms of economic one. So everyone will be resonating to their sound.
Okay.
But sasa chenye wanafanya let us just wish them all the best, but they should realize, you guys say, you remember Eric in the morning used to talk about the politicians. We fit in the politicians, not them sitting on the voter.
Yeah.
Now we will be sitting in Ruto's shoe, however much it might not reside with him.
Okay, Kuria, thank you very much.
Okay, good day, guys.
Good day. Cheers, man. 0719-012-600. You know, as we talk about all this talk of impeachment, in the previous era, it was vote of no confidence. There was the second vice president under President Moi, Dr. Josephat Jogona Karanja, was removed from office after a vote of no confidence. So Dr. Jogona Karanja had been appointed by Moi to become the vice president after the 88 Mlolongo, when then Moi Kibaki was removed, right? So he comes in. And so the allegation and the story goes that this one time, the president travels out of the country. And Dr. Karanja, the vice president, calls the security head and asks for a brief. And that is translated by those in Moi's corner as usurping the powers of the president.
Treason.
Just because the president is not in the country, it does not mean that you get the security briefs. You are not the president. So come back. And the president comes and speaks, you know, the way Moi used to speak in those public rallies. And he talked about somebody whom he did not mention, who is trying to usurp the powers of the president. And it gathered momentum. And politicians like people like Kanyinge would go out and say, there's somebody who has now even become so big. This neck has elongated so much, it wants to be bigger than the head. In fact, there's a certain politician and a political leader in this country who insists that when you go and see them, you must kneel down. That was the vibe. That there's a politician who insists that you must kneel down when you talk to them. There's a politician who's calling people all manner of names, Mshenzi Mujinga. So then there was David Mwenja, the MP for Embakasi, went to Parliament, introduced the motion of no confidence, and speaker after speaker who stood up said, indeed, Dr. Josephat Karanja has basically just gone off the rails completely. We have no confidence in him. And the vote was no confidence against Dr. Josephat Karanja. When he rose to speak, he was like, oh my God, this country has gone to the dogs. We have gotten to that level where it's a very sad day. You know, of course, what politicians would say. It's a very sad day for this country because of where we've gotten. And let me just quote what he said when he rose us to speak. It's a sad day for Kenya when common decency has been thrown out of the window and replaced with political thuggery. But the die had been cast, and that was it. It was not because Dr. Jogona Karanja had formed his own party. It was not because Dr. Josephat Karanja had stood up and said, I am the president. It was not, no. It was just felt that Dr. Josephat Karanja was not acting in the best interest of his boss, that is supporting the boss. So, vote of no confidence. It was a political process. An impeachment is a political process. Let's hear from Mila Menga. Mila, good morning.
Good morning.
How is Siaya today?
I'm good, and I wanted to contribute in the conversation today.
Go ahead.
You know, I'm calling from Siaya, and you know, in our language, you say Wichedano. The head is the human being. So the head has the eye, has the nose, has everything that is called the human being.
Oh, we lost him. We lost Mila. Mila Menga, please call us back. Let's hear what you are saying. So you were saying, how do you say that again, CT? The head is the human being. Say something Wichetano.
Which? Endano.
Which endano?
The head is the human being.
The head is the human being. Oluocho Gola in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you, Oluocho?
Happy New Year and the crew in Spice FM.
Happy New Year.
The crew greets you. We are fine, thank you.
Say Happy New Year.
I wanted to contribute to the topic you're having today. I really don't think that ANC and Kanu can impeach the vice president. But the thing is, I think he's just taken his what can you say about this? He's taken his direction. So if I don't think he can resign, I don't think they can impeach him. And these people are just playing shenanigans.
So it's just hot air.
It is just hot air. People are trying to gain relevance on the way to 2026. That's what I think I can say.
Thank you, Oluoch, and thank you very much. Have a good day. Okay, Mila Menga is back from Siaya. Mila, you were saying Michetano.
Yes, and I was saying, you know, the president has. We voted for the president. We didn't vote for the deputy president. And the deputy president was just
actually you did. It was a package deal, a combo.
Okay.
Yes.
When we voted for them too, the expectation that we had was that the deputy president was going to support the president achieve what he wanted to achieve. Because after this, the president is going to go home. The deputy president still has a chance to lead this country. So the legacy is on the president. So the president, if the president has shown the deputy president that this is the direction I want us to follow, the deputy president has no choice but to follow the president because he still has a chance.
Do you think the deputy president has gone against that direction that the president has pointed?
Totally. Actually, the expectations that I have is that the Jubilee Party should impeach, not ANC, not ODM. The Jubilee Party should impeach the deputy president. And they have the numbers. I don't know what they're waiting for. And they have the numbers to impeach the deputy president. And I don't know why the deputy president is still hiding on a party called UDA. Why can't he just resign and start a movement? Why is he fearing? Why is he fearing to start a movement?
Maybe he's not fearing it. Maybe he understands what he's doing better than we all do, and he knows that this is the path he must follow.
Politics is about interest, and you know, interest is that you need to get some money to do your things. It is as basic as that. And these people are earning salaries and going on with their life. So that is the interest that is there. It is not that, and he wants to be the president. So it is not like something that is so complicated that we need to think that the British president has something that is planning.
But remember that if you look at the history of this country, if you're in the position of deputy president or if you are a vice president, even when you leave office, believe me, people forget you very quickly.
Yeah.
They remember you when you're in power, but the moment you leave that position, somebody else will take over, and that is the person they will look to. Presidents fare better. Presidents are remembered a little more. Vice presidents, deputy presidents, you take that position of resigning. My friend, you will have resigned more than the position.
So you lose your relevance.
But you get my point.
All
My
right.
point
Yes.
was that we are talking about impeachment. My point is if the deputy president has the numbers. Actually, if I was him, I could dare the Jubilee Party, because he's already out of the Jubilee Party. This argument of this is an affiliate of the Jubilee Party. What is that? That is conmanship. Why
No,
can't he just-
you know, my brother, there's only one politician in this country who pulled that feat that you're talking about and done it successfully. That's Raila Odinga.
Yes.
Leaving one
Yes, that
party,
is it.
forming another, and continuing. You try
Amazing.
that and see how far you will go. That'll be the end of your political career.
Well, even
Why
Ruto, you
can't
can
he-
say he left URP
Why
and
can't the
in
deputy
Jubilee.
president pull that stance?
It wasn't he left to be in Jubilee. He was in Jubilee with. But a solo run, as in you leave and it is you forming something else, as opposed to joining another political heavyweight. You're done for.
Thank you very much, Bill, and have a good day in Siaya.
Okay, thank you so much.
Taking your call 0719-012-600, but let's just take a quick break and look at what's happening on the roads before we hear more from you. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Okay, the situation at Outer Ring. Border guys now have blocked the road after one of their own was in a bad accident this morning. So border operators on Outer Ring have decided that nobody's getting through because of that accident that we saw. So if you're headed to or coming from that direction, it's a mess up ahead and it's causing some massive traffic in and outbound. Okay, so that's what's going on in that direction. The accident or the stalled trailer that was on the southern bypass, they're still trying to get that one out of the way. It had caused some traffic and the backload is what we're working with now. So if you don't have to use the southern bypass, do not, at least for now. Avoid the service lane from Survey to Muthaiga. You're just going to have to stick on the highway. It's slow, but it's sure. The service lanes are not providing you that reprieve that you need, and that's for Thika Road. Coming off of Kiambu Road, we're still at 6 lanes now, guys. Everybody trying to join Thika Road at the same time. So we thought we were out of traffic hour? Not so much. Still traffic in several parts of the city for now. It looks like it's going to be a long day. What do you need? A lot of patience and a contact that you can talk to us in case you need to. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Minutes to 10 o'clock.
94.4.
Conversation. We're taking your calls 0719-012-600. Should Deputy President William Ruto resign? There have been calls for him to resign. Or do you think that there are grounds to impeach him, as has been threatened by MPs from the Amani National Congress? Patrick in Vihiga, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I don't support that move by ANC leaders.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, what should happen is that, like if it were in the days of Moi when Kanu was very, very powerful,
yep,
Jubilee would render the deputy president partyless by throwing him out of the party.
Mm-hmm.
That could go well.
Mm-hmm.
But for anyone to call for his impeachment, there must be proper grounds with the proper evidence to support it. Otherwise, it will fail.
So you don't think
Yeah,
there's proper ground for an impeachment?
I don't think so. Because you see, in the first place, Jubilee itself is a party that has never had its ADC or NEC since it was since inception.
Yep.
Two, some members have become some party leaders have become members of Jubilee by the face value of their appearance. Yeah, so if it is messing, then everybody has messed, including the president himself.
Okay.
And if there are differences which are in Jubilee, or no, if there is a difference between the president and the deputy president, there remain enough who can who can sort out those things in boardroom meetings.
Okay.
Because I feel the deputy president is frustrated. The president is also frustrated. But the button is they better sit in the boardroom meetings with the religious leaders and sort out the difference.
They own it out themselves.
In fact, going for the impeachment of the deputy president right now is a mockery of the problems Kenyans are going through. Why don't you open other discourses to discuss the current problems you are having instead of impeaching one?
Bigger issues.
Yes.
Thank you, Patrick. I'll have a good day in Vihiga. Let's cross over to Mombasa. Said Omar, good morning.
Morning, habari zenu nyote huko?
Hatujambo kaka, hatujui wewe?
Sisi tuko salama, jua tu. Sasa mimi nashangaa na haya masuala ya Wakenya generally. Sijui kwa nini nidhamu huwa tunasahau nidhamu. Hakuna vile shati lako kifungo kile cha chini uanze kukifunga juu. Hilo shati litakaa namna gani mbele za watu?
Vibaya sana.
So nidhamu ni kitu kinajieleza mtu ni wa aina gani.
Fafanua ndugu.
Kwa sababu rais ndio mkuu wa taifa. Na huyu ni makamu wake. Ama naibu wake. Ikiwa bosi wako anakuambia leo na kutuma Malindi kwa kave report fulani, wewe unaenda Kwale. Sasa kutakuwa na nidhamu kweli hapo?
Hakuna discipline.
Rais anakusema hivi, deputy wake anaongea hivi. Hiyo ofisi itakaa lini iangalie masuala ya Wakenya?
So Said, unasema nini? Ajiuzulu ama akuwe impeached?
Nilikuwa nakuja hapo. So we ambaye unaona pengine ufanyiwi sawa, muungwana akivuliwa nguo anatutama, he kneels down. Sawa. Yeye huwezi kutuambia bibi yako anazurura usiku, anakuwa yeye si mkweli katika ndoa, alafu bado wewe unalala naye. Jiuzulu, uache utafute njia zako zingine tena za kutafuta hizi kura. Kwa sababu ukingoja uwe impeached, Mwafrika ni Mwafrika, wanaweza kukufanyia inadi na ukaenda nyumbani. Kwa hivyo Ruto aache kumdharau rais ili nidhamu yake ionekane.
Asante Said. Let's go to Meru. Samuel, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Spice FM.
Good morning.
Okay, my contribution to the topic of the day is that what we are being treated to, this tiff between Ruto and Uhuru, is lack of political hygiene in Kenya. And it also depicts the lack of mannerism in our politics. These guys in 2013, they were together. The matrix was that tyranny of number. Bring 50%, I bring 50% of the vote. At that time, the people of Kenya were being treated as, figures. Right now, when things have gone berserk, when these guys cannot even sit down and talk, now the deputy president is trying to play, like a victim. He's trying to, appeal to the masses that I'm being betrayed. But it is the very, very foundation, the very quicksand foundation in which that marriage between Ruto and Uhuru was found that is coming to haunt them. Now that the deputy president is feeling disgruntled after the handshake, he thinks that, powers have been taken away from him.
Okay.
That is why he cannot, resign. He's trying to fight his own, the government that he participated to form. And that is not good for our stability. We have many challenges as a country that we are facing. We cannot be, every day when we open our TVs, we listen to the radio, it's about Ruto and Uhuru. Yet these are the guys who promised us, the American dream, the Kenyan dream in 2014. Yeah, so my opinion is this, in terms of the question that you posed. I think Deputy President should just resign from government. It is hypocritical to steal enjoy the trappings of power, yet criticize the same government and the same government that pays you. Just resign. If you feel that, because every place the deputy president goes, he says that he has MPs. He cannot be impeached. He has power. He's powerful than the president.
Okay,
Even his own budget. Let him resign.
Okay, Samuel.
And save Kenyans from this drama.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Have a
Okay.
good day.
Good day.
Simon in Nyeri.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Simon.
Well, I've decided now to contribute on this. We're talking about impeachment here.
Yes.
It appears like the bug in U.S. has caught up with us now. But this has been long coming. In management or in general leadership, there is something called challenge of authority. When you're challenging authority, you should always know that there is a certain stage that you reach, and you'll face the consequences. Now, I think this is what is happening now, and it's playing out slowly and slowly. And we are seeing, instead of the weaker part backing down, it seems to be escalating. Now, the world is replete with the deputy presidents who have been pushed out, some in a very unorthodox manner. I don't think William is playing the winning game. For example, let us take an example of Malaysia. You remember Mahathir Mohamad?
Yep.
You also remember how he dealt with his deputy who was convicted out of sodomy. It took a junior minister actually to raise an issue of the vice president being disloyal. Now coming closer home, you remember how Jerry Rawlings dealt with his deputy?
What did he do to the deputy?
Instead of using the orthodox methods of sacking his deputy, he actually beat him up. And absolutely nothing happened to him. I mean, he thought he was so popular. When he went out and ran against Jerry Rawlings in the next election, he did miserably.
So what are you saying?
So
then?
the seat of the deputy president is rather pedestrian.
So should he be impeached? Can he be impeached?
Yes, he can. But I don't think he should. What he should do is gather back his faculties and toe the line before it's too much. I mean, I think there must be someone who is actually trying to bring him back, because this new outfit that has been formed, he doesn't really want to associate with it, yet there is a pull towards associating with it.
Okay.
Yes.
Simon, thank you very much for your contribution.
All right, thanks.
0719-012-600. What is it? What do you think? Should the deputy president resign? Should he be impeached? Can he be impeached? Can it even go through if it was actually brought to the floor of the House? At 9:45, we are waiting for your calls. And then also we are looking at what you're saying on social media. Spice FM KE on Facebook, on Twitter and Instagram.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Right, it's 9:45. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Vincent says the deputy president shouldn't resign and there are no grounds to impeach him, because even if we look at the grounds that the ANC have put forth, which is misleading the public, then the question is, who has he misled?
How?
Or how has he misled the public? All right. Other comments?
Sure. Kirao says, why should he resign? The president himself has done less on his Big Four agenda. If the president was serious about progressing with his agenda, then the DP is not a stumbling block. Ian Kiplimo says, when you want to kill a dog, you give it a bad name. That's what the anti-Ruto camp are trying to do. It will be unwise for Ruto to resign, for there are no concrete grounds. Let him continue pushing his hustler narrative. It bears more than the noises. It bores more than the noises from his unworthy competitors. Wellington Wanyama has quite a lot to say. Ruto is perfectly in order. The author of all this discord in government and Jubilee Party is the president himself. If the president wanted to have Ruto on board, it would have been so. But he chose to sideline him, malign him, and undermine him. Ruto retaliated, and people only magnify what the DP has reacted to, not what done to him. We have very greedy, selfish, and an entitled president, and that's what's the cause of this huge rift and division in our nation right now, sinking as low as flushing out the tribal card last week as a new low. And because of that, we could be heading into the next election more volatile and divided, with the BBI bringing pre-election violence. Goodness. Charles Adoch, I support you. You cannot be in the government and at the same time oppose the government and have no respect for your boss. Victor Ochi says, for me, I support his impeachment because he is the first vice president to go against his boss.
Okay. Let's hear from Eugene in Kisumu. Eugene, good morning.
Morning, the Situation Room. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Morning.
So first, a couple of things here. One, I think this is insanity being displayed in the Kenyan politics. And the vice president or the deputy president is actually not right to oppose the government that is actually serving. And the right thing for him to do is to do the honorable thing and resign. That apparently he is not going to do. About the impeachment motion, if Savula is going to bring it, I don't see it succeeding. And if it succeeds, it is going to work in terms of basically just building Ruto's political career. Because you'd realize that news is not news now, especially the political news, if Ruto doesn't feature, which I think is working well for him, and you'd want to basically be on the bad books for now, because apparently in Kenya, or I don't know if it is the nature of politics, that politics tend to thrive on bad news. So I think what Savula and ANC is doing for now is trying to build Ruto as an individual, and I don't know whether it is a scheme or not, because there's just a lot that is going in politics. But again, on the flip side, Ruto as an individual has a right of opinion. If he disagrees with BBI, we should also be able to look at it. If we recently look at what happened in the US, there's the position that Donald Trump wanted, but Pence was in a position where he said, no, I'm not going to, I think the scheme was for I don't know what to happen so that Pence could pardon him, the scheme, the story that was there. So basically, it's a delicate situation, because as an individual, as a citizen of this country, he has an opinion. He has a right to disagree with the president. The only thing is, because anyway, if you run as a ticket, there's nowhere that is written that you should always agree. I can think differently from you. Even in the Situation Room, you guys don't have the same opinion all the time. So again, the one bit that we really need to look at is the deputy president coming out. I watched the other time him talking about debt being there, what the focus needs to be economically. But it was part of this decision, so he needs to take responsibility for them. Now he's kind of trying to shift the blame to the president and to the deep state that people talk about and the BBI thing. You getting that? He's now trying to run away from that. So I think we are in a very jinxed situation, and Kenya is headed the wrong direction. So let's pray to God that some sanity reigns.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eugene, and have a good day.
You too.
So he says the deputy president basically is there. He was participating in the decisions that are made. And then when some of them go wrong, come turning around and saying, you know what, things are not going in the right direction. That is basically hypocrisy. That is a Genesis 3:12. Here is Pastor Latif.
But remember, you see, if we were talking about a discipline or an area of engagement that isn't political, then everything he's saying would make perfect sense. Hypocrisy is currency. It's normal currency in politics.
Yeah. But then there's now what holds it all together, politics and everything else. And this is what we're calling, political hygiene. This is what we're calling good manners and
it's what
proper
we're
behavior.
calling goodwill.
Yeah. What it is that Omar called it in Swahili. When you talk about nidhamu. Yep.
Then someone even said he should be honorable. And I thought, at what? Honorable.
Yes.
In politics.
Yes.
All right. Give me an example in the recent past of a politician who's been honorable.
In this country?
In this country.
Well, we expect them to be, but we don't get it.
Well, the expectation is that they would be honorable because you're holding a position of servitude. I mean, those are things that we hear.
It doesn't mean that now we fall to their trap and say...
So essentially what we're saying is we would like the deputy president to set this example, which doesn't exist.
Yes.
Or we have not seen, and let him raise the bar, isn't it?
Propel us to the future.
My friend, that future that you're talking about is propelling the deputy to oblivion. He resigns. That is the end of his political career.
Propel us to the future. Show us the way. Say, you know what, guys? I came in here. I strongly believed when we were having these conversations with my fellow candidate, I strongly believed in the ideals that we stood for. We were not voting for a tribe. We wanted to move the country to a certain direction. And I feel that we have now parted ways. And for that reason, I don't want to be part of this ticket.
But let's honestly look at this. I mean, we accept that politicians will say one thing and do the complete opposite. And we think, we are normalizing something that is completely off the charts.
But you see, that's exactly what he's doing. You see, when he comes out in public, he is doing exactly that. He's coming to say, we are not on the same page anymore. Using very many words, but that's what he's saying. We are not on the same page anymore.
When you endorse somebody that then is the front runner for an empty seat on an affiliate party or on a different party, when you endorse that individual, what are you saying? That whatever else that has stood before, I don't agree with that anymore. And here I am putting my voice out on a different platform.
That is certainly one way of interpreting it. But the other way, if I were to interpret and look at the background of our Kenyan politics, is this. I have found an avenue to propagate that which I wish to propagate, and the avenue is this.
Okay.
Forget any of these lofty reasons that we give for reasons why politicians do things. This is likely to succeed. This government that I've been part of, the decisions that I was part of making, which has brought this country to near its knees, I am now going to be the champion who is pointing fingers at the very things that we did and saying these things are wrong and I'm moving away from it. How?
Genesis 3:12. And the man said, the woman whom thou gavest me, she gave me the tree, the fruit.
Bishop,
this is Adam standing there and saying, see, it is this woman that you brought.
Actually, no.
Why did you sin? It is because it's not me, by the way. God, it's not me.
So essentially, we're enshrining a time-honored tradition.
Yeah.
Passing?
No.
Kuruka, kipetero kiesu. Why do they say kipetero kiesu?
Throw everybody. You know
what Peter did to Jesus.
You know, Eric, you do have a point because that's what Trump has done with his followers. He's thrown them under the bus.
No follower of mine can do this.
No real follower of mine
will do what I told them to do previously, okay? Which I'm now recanting and saying it is not what I meant. Goodness gracious me. Thank you. Great leader of the religious variety. Thank you.
For it is written.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Man, this man received an epiphany.
I'm telling you.
So what I'm saying is, this is what this gentleman is doing. All right? Did God say, okay, sour, then? Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, it's okay. You Adam, you have no problem. Let me just deal with then this woman, and me
No,
because
they
I'm
were
the one who brought the
both
woman.
expelled from the
Both.
garden.
Both. That's the point.
So this is where you're going with this great man of God. I see. I now understand.
When things are going wrong, it's both of you.
Because when you elected, it was
both of you. So if you want to impeach,
somewhere
then
down the
impeach
line
both.
say, yeah.
So if something is wrong with one side, then it means there's something
The
wrong
whole
with
thing
both
is
of
wrong.
you.
You can't say that you're going to cut out the bad part and then leave the rest. No, it was both of you.
But you've introduced a new aspect to this.
Yeah, look at it like that.
Because I'm going to say, actually, you can cut.
It has infected
Look,
the rest.
we're talking about politicians. Huh? Please understand the rules by which we understand this has to be from their perspective. This one we have to. You know why? If you don't, you'll miss the point. Here we are expecting them to follow rules which they have never followed. We expect them to behave in ways which they never behave. And we say, you ought to. It's never going to happen. It won't happen. Resign. Why? Our tradition here politically is kangumu, as we call it. Sit hard.
I'd rather die.
Yeah, I'd rather die.
Rather die than resign.
And then you're alive and well for the longest of time. But you'd rather have died.
Yes.
So
I'd rather die than resign.
time-honored tradition, nobody resigns.
Basically,
So
what you're saying
impeach
is
them.
that you can do whatever it
Go
is that
ahead
you want
and
and
say-
still stay in that office.
Impeach them. Then Safula should do what Khalole did with I'd rather die, man. Kimunya.
And the man is still
For
alive.
this reason, Kimunya must go. Kimunya must go. So Savula, go and say the same thing in Parliament. For this reason.
But the same Kimunya, did he
Ruto.
also not talk about him rather
But you
die?
see, he didn't resign.
No, he didn't. So essentially we are saying...
That's why he's alive.
We are politicians who represent the card of human beings called the living dead. Because we assume at some point they died, isn't it?
Zombies.
But we still see them.
Yeah.
Zombies.
So, coming to the top of the hour, connect the neck and the head.
This one is actually fairly straightforward. Huh? Liwe liwalo. It doesn't really matter what you say about certain things. The realities are constant. And there's nothing you say that will change it. It's a constant. Because it's simply the reality. Yes.
No matter which way you
It
slice
doesn't
it.
matter how you slice it or look at it or turn it or twist it or bake it or fry it. It's the same thing.
Same.
Same. It won't change.
Okay.
Yes.
So Ugandans are voting. We'll catch up on that tomorrow in the show tomorrow. We'll discuss what has happened in the voting and what has happened overnight when counting started in various parts of the country. Also hoping that there's going to be peace and that there'll be no more loss of life in this election campaign for Uganda. For the best of the region, for the best of the country, for the best of humanity. Tomorrow, the County Assembly of Nairobi should be hearing the vetting process should begin and end for Anne Mwenda Kananu for the post of Deputy Governor. If they approve, then she just becomes governor. Straight up, because the office of governor is vacant. There is a case that has been taken to court by the, what's that party of Kuru Court?
Third Alliance.
The Third Way Alliance has gone to court. They want that whole process stopped. They also want Anne Mwenda, in fact, even court to tell Anne Mwenda, do not approach the county assembly. And then the county assembly to be told, do not even think about hearing this.
Discussing this.
Many other cases.
This should be interesting.
This will be interesting, right? Let's see what happens tomorrow. We'll have the conversation as well with the leadership of the county assembly and also with others who have opinion on this. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 o'clock. See you tomorrow.